All right, we're back. So let's see what's happened with British pound. Well, it's still on and we're still holding positions. So our position is anybody who followed our trades or who already followed and copied our trade, they can see that this afternoon we purchased British pound and it went up. So we're already in 7,000 pounds in profit, right? Japanese yen still not moving much. So this is where we stand right now. Okay. Again, what I want to say basically, what you see here, what we're trying to show you, we show you only one screen of our trade station. You see 5 Forex pairs. This is dollar yen, pound and US dollar and Canadian dollar, euro against US dollar and Bitcoin. We trade live our own funds. 1 pip equals 100 pounds except Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, 1 pip equals 10 pounds. If you're looking for purchase and our strategy, please go to company.co.uk where you will click on the link and you will get the strategy. Okay, I'll speak to you later. We will see what's going to happen with British pound. And at this moment, right now, you can just enjoy again Bloomberg for time being. Speak to you later.
Case here at the White House, when we had this raw intelligence, we started an interagency process to look at options so that if the intelligence turned out to be verified, if it could be corroborated, then we'd have options to go to the president with to address the Russian situation.
O'Brien said it was the Central Intelligence Agency that chose to give the uncorroborated information to the command in Afghanistan, but not initially included in the president's briefing. In Washington, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
Miami-Dade County in Florida reported the highest numbers of COVID-19 intensive care patients since at least early April. California reporting 9,740 new infections, its biggest ever daily jump. New York City will hold off on a plan to allow indoor dining at restaurants as the city proceeds with the next phase of its reopening on July 6th. Mayor Bill de Blasio, though, did have some good news.
Our New York City beaches open today. We are ready for a great holiday weekend. The lifeguards are ready to go. New Yorkers can stay cool.
Yale University plans to hold most classes online next semester and require those students who go on campus to be tested weekly for COVID-19. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Mark Mills.
In a world pandemic, wild theories abound.
This is beginning to percolate.
But there is one source that's expert, honest, and current. Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene.
You try to avoid the losers.
Jonathan Farrow.
We've got the potential for the value trap.
And Lisa Abramowitz.
What's the risk for financial stability?
Bloomberg Surveillance. Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. And now, watch us on Bloomberg Television.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
If trying to figure out the future of your business is keeping you up at night,
Are you seeing it come back at all?
at least you have company.
What do you make of the most recent virus headlines?
How should labor respond?
You're hoping to get political pressure.
Experts, information, breaking news, all day, all night, everywhere.
Do you expect the euro to continue to strengthen? Why even have this hearing?
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Economics.
All this doom.
Ever wondered how people's postcode lottery works? Easy. Your postcode is your ticket. And every weekday it gives you the chance to win £1,000 or £30,000 every weekend. And every month players in your postcode could win a share of £3 million. Join in at postcodelottery.co.uk/radio before midnight on the 23rd of July to play in the August draws. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 16 plus. Conditions apply. Play responsibly.
When you're facing a problem, like how to make an electric car more efficient, you could sit down and talk it through. But at Honda, we decided to listen to the wind tunnel. With wing mirrors? Or without? With? Without? With? Without? Or with cameras instead of wing mirrors? The new Honda E with wind cameras, not mirrors, because we listen to the wind. Honda, the power of dreams.
In line with government guidelines, face coverings are now compulsory on public transport. At Asda, you can get a 4-pack of Prima disposable face coverings for £2.80, or a 2-pack of washable face coverings from £2.50. Asda, we're all in this together. Selected stores subject to availability.
I was offered one.
I was offered one. Were you?
Yeah, I was offered one too.
1 2 1 2. I was offered one.
I was offered one. Don't take our word for it. 9 out of 10 people said they were offered a great value deal with O2. Get yours today, in-store, online, or by phone.
I was offered one too. O2 Retail Exit Survey 309 of 348 agreed with the statement. O2 offered me a great value deal. For full verification, see o2.co.uk/terms.
Want to be the next entrepreneur, innovator, creator? Join the University of East London, the careers-led university. We prepare students for the jobs of the future with industry-focused teaching and an innovative approach to education. This September, we're introducing a new flexible teaching model to keep our students safe and our education accessible to all. The University of East London, pioneering futures since 1898. Apply for September 2020 at uel.ac.uk/clearing.
How do we control coronavirus now? Listen to Claudia. She's a care worker.
I got the call from NHS Test and Trace. Told I'd been in contact with someone with coronavirus. Couldn't believe it. I had to isolate at home for 14 days. Couldn't go to work, couldn't go to the shops, couldn't get out to exercise. I didn't even feel ill. But you know what? To protect my family, my friends, my community, well, you just do it, don't you?
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
When you're buying tech online and you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, would you rather talk to an algorithm or to someone called Al, or Ethan, or Kai, or Rachel, or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience?
Hey, it's Ali. Can I give you a hand?
Isn't it nice to get expert advice from another human being before you buy? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Where do hockey and pop culture coexist?
So let me get this straight. You would be able to name more people nostalgically than currently? This doesn't.
Come on,
it's
crazy. I know.
Other podcast Puck Soup NHL analyst Greg Wyshynski, Sean McAdoo, and Ryan Lambert chase the conversational biscuit up and down the ice, skating between serious discussion on what's happening in pro hockey to irreverent opinions on movies, fast food, and life in general. Search Puck Soup on TuneIn to listen.
At Bloomberg.com. the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Stocks higher as positive vaccine developments and better-than-expected manufacturing data temper concern over a jump in coronavirus cases. Houston ICU beds now at 102% of capacity. S&P's up 19, a gain of 0.6%. NASDAQ up 93, up 0.9. The Dow up 20 points. Dow has been swinging between gains and losses. The Dow up now by about 0.1%. 10-year is down 8/30 seconds. The yield 0.68%. We've got gold down 0.7%, $17.68 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude up 1%, $39.67 a barrel. The French spirits maker Pernod Ricard, the distiller of Absolute Vodka and Jameson Irish whiskey, halting advertising on Facebook and Twitter, joining other leading marketers in a bid to stop the spread of hatred and misinformation on social media. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Ooh la la, Charlie Pellet. That was well done.
Charlie Pellet.
Get me a croissant.
Exactly.
But of course.
Green cheese.
That was Pepe Le Pew. Did you just go Pepe Le Pew on us?
I did not.
I was going ratatouille. In any case, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. Really interesting news update as always.
Yeah. All right. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Speaking of updates, we continually, of course, update you here on the Bloomberg about what's going on with the virus. And I've got to say, yesterday was, I feel like, a turning point once again, as we saw surging new cases in a bunch of southern and western states. We had states reopening plans, putting them on hold. Hospitalizations are up. And then Anthony Fauci, the U.S. government's top infectious disease specialist, warning lawmakers that virus cases could top and rise to 100,000 a day if behaviors don't change.
I can't make an accurate prediction, but it is going to be very disturbing. I will guarantee you that, because when you have an outbreak in one part of the country, even though in other parts of the country they're doing well, they are vulnerable. I made that point very clearly last week at a press conference. We can't just focus on those areas that are having the surge. It puts the entire country at risk. We are now having 40+ thousand new cases a day. I would not be surprised if we go up to 100,000 a day if this does not turn around. And so I am very concerned.
Yep, that number got our attention. That's, of course, Dr. Anthony Fauci talking to senators yesterday in a hearing held by the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And Jason, dire.
Absolutely. Well, from one of the nation's top doctors to our top doctor, Dr. Ian Lustbader, back with us, clinical associate professor of medicine at NYU's Langone Medical Center, joining us once again on the phone from New York City. So, Ian, when you heard that from Dr. Fauci, I'm guessing it didn't shock you, given how on the front lines you've been on this, but it has to be disappointing and a little bit scary, especially given that you've been on the front lines of this and seeing what's happened in New York City.
Hi, Carol and Jason. Yes, I think most doctors that I speak to certainly are very concerned, and hospitals are concerned, as they should be. To some degree, I think by not really mandating, masks and social isolation, really by giving that as an option, which, with multiple states and in a free country, that's certainly one approach. We're really, in a way, following the Swedish model, which is letting nature take its course. And when that happens, there's certainly a significant risk. As Dr. Fauci says, cases at this point are about 40 or 50,000 a day. We know they're really much higher, because we're really only picking up about 1 in 10. We're only diagnosing 1 in 10. There are probably 10 times more people who have COVID than are actually being picked up by tests. So we're talking hundreds of thousands a day of new cases. And, of course, that translates into potentially a higher surge on hospitals and healthcare facilities, and this is what we're seeing across the Sun Belt.
Yeah,
and it's not even just the surge with hospitals, which is a concern, but really ultimately a higher death rate, and then what I like to call post-COVID syndrome. Even people who get through it often have a lot of other symptoms and ongoing healthcare issues. So it's quite worrisome.
Ian, let's talk about that. In anticipation of our conversation, I was talking to others about exactly what you're getting to. You were the first one. Jason and I can kind of almost remember the day where you talked about the blood clots, throughout the body, and this was just not something you see often. Talk to us about the implications of that and the problems that seem to be maybe staying with some patients even after they recover.
Exactly. So this, and Dr. Fauci has said this, he said this is a virus with protean manifestations, meaning multiple ways of manifesting. We typically think of a virus as perhaps as a pneumonia or fever, chills, and aches, but this virus is unique. We really can't think of something similar, where multiple organs are affected, strokes in the brain, and kidney disease, liver disease, very high liver function test, GI disease, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. And not only that, besides killing people with blood clots, and some of the latest data show that the virus seems to increase platelet aggregation, or the stickiness of platelets. And platelets normally, we need to cause some clotting when you get an injury or a cut. But when there's a massive increase in platelet stickiness, you get clots everywhere, and that probably explains a lot of the severe consequences that we see as a result of these infections.
Well, and presumably that ultimately has an impact on a hospital and doctors' abilities to treat a whole host of things, including new cases, but also this long tail, as it were, Ian, of COVID.
Exactly right. So we have the acute injury, or the acute illness, and we're still a bit perplexed why there is a number of patients who have mild to no symptoms, and this is that large young group of people who are asymptomatic. They form a reservoir. They often feel fine and feel invulnerable. They're not wearing masks. They're potentially transferring this to other people who are older, which is why universal masking is certainly a reasonable request for all. And then in susceptible patients, you get this really cascade of effects that make people more short of breath, have clots everywhere. And then even if people survive after hospitalization, many have a long-term, not only psychological effects, but physical effects.
All right. We're going to continue this conversation with Dr. Ian Lustbader. Much more to talk to him about, including the vaccine landscape, which obviously is driving the market, candidly, higher today, even amid all these virus outbreaks, Carol.
I just want to mention a headline crossing coming from CNBC. Apple reclosing 30 more stores tomorrow. So we continue to see, as we said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back when it comes to virus and those reopening plans. You're listening to Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks are modestly higher as vaccine developments and positive manufacturing data offset concerns about rising cases of COVID-19. Minutes from the Fed's most recent meeting, released a few minutes ago, have had little impact. The Dow Industrials are up 36, the S&P up 21, the Nasdaq up 96. Private employers added nearly 2.4 million jobs in June, a weaker than expected reading. It's the latest sign that the economic recovery may be slowing. In another sign of a rebound in travel, United Airlines is adding nearly 25,000 flights to its U.S. and international schedules in August. The expansion will bring flights to 48% of last year. Hold on to your checkbook. Your summer electric bills are coming. Analysts say people stuck at home or working remotely will depend more than ever on the AC as temperatures rise. That could boost power bills by up to 25% in parts of the U.S. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Reopening.
The reopening rotation has taken place.
How will it happen?
Healthcare is obviously very much in focus.
What's next?
Surely it's better to have an extension.
What if?
This is going to be industry-wide.
At least there's one question you can have answered. Where to keep up?
We have the latest world and national news
right here.
This departed from a policy he had long had.
This is about people that you care about.
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Bloomberg and Eaton.
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like when your week off is forecast warm and sunny. Or when there's an extra unclaimed sausage left on the barbecue. Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage. Yeah, that feeling. Nice, isn't it? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Listening has always taught us a lot at Honda. And lately, we've been listening to your thumbs. Because thumbs can do everything now. The world is at their thumb tips. So now, the My Honda Plus app lets the thumb take control of your car too. Even when you're not inside the new Honda E, your thumb can find where you parked, set the temperature before you get in, check how much the battery is charged, and schedule charging for when electricity is cheapest. The new Honda E and My Honda Plus app. Oh, a thumbs up. Honda, the power of dreams.
Ever wondered how people's postcode lottery works? Easy. Your postcode is your ticket. And every weekday it gives you the chance to win £1,000 or £30,000 every weekend. And every month players in your postcode could win a share of £3 million. Join in at postcodelottery.co.uk/radio before midnight on the 23rd of July to play in the August draws. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 16 plus. Conditions apply. Play responsibly.
How do we control coronavirus now? Listen to Claudia. She's a care worker.
I got the call from NHS Test and Trace. Told I'd been in contact with someone with coronavirus. Couldn't believe it. I had to isolate at home for 14 days. Couldn't go to work, couldn't go to the shops, couldn't get out to exercise. I didn't even feel ill. But you know what? To protect my family, my friends, my community, well, you just do it, don't you?
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
Mike's mother of all marinades.
I love my homemade barbecue marinades. The only problem is no one else does. So today I'm trying something new. Caramelized crispy pork belly tumbled in sea salt, red chili, black pepper and sugar. And sweet sticky chicken fillets in tangy mango, coconut and lime. This is amazing.
Yeah, because you didn't make it.
Introducing the new Fire Pit range, exclusively at Tesco. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco. Available in the majority of larger stores while stocks last.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
To help keep you and your loved ones safe, TuneIn has the latest guidelines from the CDC. Outdoor gatherings? Wash your hands and don't touch your face. Stay at least 6 feet from people you don't live with. Wear a mask. Don't share food, toys, or other items, and avoid shared surfaces. Participate in events like these infrequently. For the latest stories and updates on COVID-19, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
We're going to get back to COVID-19, the virus, the update. We're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Ian Lustbader over at NYU Langone Medical Center. Still got a bunch of questions for him, Jason.
Absolutely. Can't wait to continue the conversation, especially about vaccines, since those are so much in the headlines today. First, let's get some of those other headlines. Charlie Pellet's got it. Hey, Charlie.
Thank you very much. Here's what's going on. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, they're all higher right now. Dow, though, has been swinging between gains and losses. Right now, looking at a 10-point gain. First trading day of the second half of 2020, up now by 7 on the Dow, 25,820. S&P 500 index up 20 at 3120. That's a gain of 0.7%. NASDAQ keeps on going, up 101 right now, up at 10,160, a gain of 1%. Year to date, NASDAQ has returned 13.24%. The 10-year down 9/32 with a yield of 0.68%. Gold down 0.8%, 17.67 the ounce, and crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, traded here in New York, up 1.2%, 39.74 a barrel. An early trial of an experimental coronavirus vaccine from Pfizer. And BioNTech showed it is safe and prompted patients to produce antibodies against the new virus, keeping it in the lead pack for a pandemic shot. Pfizer shares, they're pushing higher now by 4.7%. Shares of BioNTech, the ticker there, BNTX, it is up by 8.1%. As cases continue to rise in several states around the country, medical professionals are hammering home the importance of wearing face masks. Lauren Sauer is an assistant professor of emergency medicine at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. She was interviewed this morning on Bloomberg Television.
Wearing a mask is politically quite divisive right now, and it's really challenging, and it's something we've been doing a lot of work on. It is a basic intervention. It is safe. We're seeing data that it works.
The Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health is supported by Michael R. Bloomberg, founder of Bloomberg LP and Bloomberg Philanthropies. FedEx shares surging after earnings. FedEx up now by 11.9%. Recapping equities mixed. S&P up now by 18, up 0.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Appreciate that update. We're here with Dr. Ian Lusbader, Clinical Associate Professor of Medicine at NYU Langone Medical Center. On the phone in New York, as Jason and I repeatedly say, he really has been our go-to voice every week to check in on the virus. Ian, Charlie Pellet just talked about a Pfizer vaccine that showed some promise. And what's interesting is Wall Street investors, they tend to react pretty enthusiastically rather quickly when it comes to virus news. Put it in context. When do you realistically still expect a vaccine, rather?
So, I think this is encouraging news. Pfizer is one of a number of companies, Moderna, J&J, AstraZeneca, who are really moving forward. A lot of these studies are going to go into phase 3 with wider number of patients. The Pfizer study is fairly small, 45 patients or so. But it certainly is encouraging. What we don't know is in a larger number of patients, how many will develop antibodies that are neutralizing, how long those antibodies will last, and will the virus mutate. So I think it is encouraging that we're making progress. It is a unique way of making a vaccine with messenger RNA, which gets into your own cells and forms these proteins that are typical of the coronavirus, COVID-19, typically the spike protein, and then your body forms antibodies to that. So you're not subject to the risk of a live virus. And we think that this is hopefully a better way. It is a relatively new technology. But again, there are a lot of hurdles before not only is it proven effective, but it can be ramped up, manufactured, and distributed. And probably there'll be several vaccines using similar technology, hopefully with similar efficacy. So I think at some point, and I'm thinking early 2021, but I think it can be a very bumpy road until we get there where it's widespread. And then you have to see how many people will be willing to take it. But since we know probably 25 million or more Americans probably have the virus based on that 1 in 10, we know the death rate is certainly higher than the 125 or 150,000 people. That's going to climb much, much higher. We're going to have a lot of shocks to the system, the economic system, and I think this is encouraging, but it is an early step in a very long process to turn things around. I don't mean to be negative. I'm just trying to keep it in perspective.
Yeah.
We look to you to keep it real for us, Ian. So speaking of which, speaking of long roads, the road back for New York City, you are there in New York. You saw, I'm sure, that Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo said, let's slow down a little bit on indoor dining, expand some outdoor dining. This is a cautious reopening, to say the least, clearly informed by what we see going on in the rest of the country, in New York and New York City specifically, not wanting to fall back. What do you make of it so far, the reopening?
Right. This is really unexplored territory. It's not like there's a template to follow. And I think New York certainly has done remarkably well compared to the rest of the country. We dealt with a major hospital surge. And I think everyone is afraid justifiably of either a second wave or losing ground. And that would be a real real strain on not only the economics but the hospital system. And so I think we have to be careful. Certainly we know outside is better than inside. Wearing masks, having some social distance certainly reduces the risk. And I think he's trying to be prudent. It's going to be very difficult to know when is the all clear signal that restaurants can go back. And I think that puts a question on the whole economy and small business owners. You know, they're under strain. So I think we do need to get back. The optimal time for that is unclear, and I think if there's any place to begin that, it appears New York City is ready to take some forward steps as long as we track and trace and contact trace and make sure we're not seeing any recurrence or second wave.
Right. And we're getting ready for that Phase 3 reopening come July 6th. Ian, thank you so much. Have a great holiday, a safe holiday. And, of course, we'll check in with you next week. Dr. Ian Lustbader, Clinical Associate Professor of Medicine at the NYU Langone Medical Center on the phone from New York City. And that's what I need every week.
Yeah, it's a good dose, pun intended, of reality. And also, you know, to understand the complexity, especially of the vaccine and that whole process, it's really important for us to think about. And also a reminder, and we heard this even, you know, in Charlie's news report with the bit from the doctor at Johns Hopkins, you know, the socially distanced, wear a mask, like do the things that you need to do in the meantime, because we're still months away from a vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and, you know, just keep in mind that as we go through these phases with new medications and new vaccines, I mean, it's a process, and you've got to do it and go through it to make sure it's done in a safe way. All right, let's get back to World and National News headlines. For that, let's turn things over once again to Mark Mills. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Carol, thank you. President Trump is coming under growing pressure from lawmakers to respond to allegations that Russia offered bounties for killing American troops in Afghanistan. Virginia Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger says Americans should be united in wanting answers to those claims.
This is about protecting our own national security and protecting our friends and neighbors who are in a war zone in harm's way. And the notion that that risk to them is heightened because there might be a bounty on their head should be objectionable and something that every American rallies behind to oppose.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the United States properly handled the reported intelligence on Russian bounties and that Moscow's endangerment of U.S. forces is nothing new.
We took this seriously. We handled it appropriately. The Russians have been selling small arms that have put Americans at risk there for 10 years. The fact that the Russians are engaged in Afghanistan in a way that's adverse to the United States is nothing new.
Russian President Vladimir Putin headed for a resounding endorsement of his bid to extend his 2-decade-long rule, potentially to 2036, even as some polls show his approval ratings near historic lows. Early results of the voting show 74% in favor of the proposal, with about a third of the precincts counted. Hong Kong police made 10 arrests Wednesday, the first arrests under the new national security law imposed by China's central government, as thousands of people defied tear gas and pepper pellets to protest against the new law on the anniversary of the former British colony's handover to Chinese rule. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Mark Mills. This is Bloomberg.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Debbie Hart is president of BioNJ, which represents the interests of more than 400 New Jersey-based biotech companies. She's also a strong voice in the biotech sector, supporting research universities like New Jersey Institute of Technology. She sees NJIT as a valuable partner in attracting venture capital and biotech startups to the Garden State.
So the number one reason the companies come here to New Jersey for the biotech industry is for our talent. We estimate that there were about 30 biotech companies in the early 90s in New Jersey, about 80 in 1998. Today there are more than 400. And that growth continues, and it's come from every possible angle. Other countries, other states, they've spun out of our academic institutions as well as our biotech and our pharma companies, and we expect that growth to continue long into the future. And NJIT is a pipeline for talent, for companies, for entrepreneurs to do that important work.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
COVID-19. Can the world...
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like when your week off is forecast warm and sunny. Or when there's an extra unclaimed sausage left on the barbecue. Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage. Yeah, that feeling. Nice, isn't it? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Listening has always taught us a lot at Honda. And lately, we've been listening to your thumbs. Because thumbs can do everything now. The world is at their thumb tips. So now, the My Honda Plus app lets the thumb take control of your car too. Even when you're not inside the new Honda E, your thumb can find where you parked, set the temperature before you get in, check how much the battery is charged, and schedule charging for when electricity is cheapest. The new Honda E and My Honda Plus app. Oh, a thumbs up. Honda, the power of dreams.
You always say the best thing you ever did was join up. I bet you don't get the same experiences in Civvy Street, especially the expats. And that feeling of pride. Lots of people are rejoining now. It's easy, and we'd love to have you back. Go on, feel the pride again. Search RAF Rejoiners.
How do you keep track of all your favorite stations and podcasts? Easy. You add them to your favorites list. Just find the audio you want to bookmark and tap the heart icon. Then, whenever you want to browse your favorites, you'll find everything under the Favorites tab.
To help keep you and your loved ones safe, tune in as the latest guidelines from the CDC. Outdoor activities, wash your hands and don't touch your face. Stay at least 6 feet from people you don't live with. Wear a mask. Avoid shared surfaces like swings or benches. For the latest stories and updates on COVID-19, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
Ready for some straight talk on what's happening in the MLB? On the Barstool Sports Podcast starting 9, Dallas Braden and Jared Carrabis cut through the BS to break down the league the way they really see it.
Yeah, we're continuing our little mini-series of college baseball coaches in addition to bringing you major league players from throughout the league. If you've been listening to Starting 9 for some time now, you know that we've had a big leaguer on every single episode for probably 2 years now.
Search Starting 9 on TuneIn to listen.
Where do sports, culture, and basketball nostalgia collide? On their podcast, Knuckleheads, NBA veterans Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles sit down with athletes, musicians, and entertainers to get brutally honest, totally unguarded conversations about everything from current events to untold stories from the golden era of sports.
Shaquille O'Neal. You know that, right? I tried to tip dunk off the free throw line one time.
Search Knuckleheads on TuneIn to listen.
First, we're told that masks don't work. Then, we're told to wear them all the time. One week, we hear that the mortality rate is 2%. The next, well, who knows? In the time of COVID-19, there is so much uncertainty, and so much scientists are learning in real time, along with the rest of the world. So it's hard to know what you can be sure of and what's still a big question mark. Enter Podcast 19 from 538, where we'll explore the evidence behind the science in our fight against coronavirus. I'm science journalist Anna Rothschild. Each week, I'll investigate coronavirus mysteries, keep track of the latest developments on vaccines and treatments. Oh, and I'll try to edit out all the times I shush my family since I'm recording this thing from the chaos of my home.
Search Podcast 19 to listen today.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. A mixed Wednesday, S&P up for a third day. NASDAQ heading toward a record as an early trial of an experimental shot from Pfizer and BioNTech shows it's safe and prompted patients to produce antibodies. S&P up 14 now, a gain there of 0.5%. The Dow on this first trading day of the second half down 30, a drop now of 0.1%. Dow has been swinging between gains and losses. NASDAQ up 81 points, up another 0.8%, now at 10,140. The 10-year right now down 9.30 seconds, yield 0.68%. Gold down $13 the ounce, a drop of 0.7% at 17.68. Crude pushing higher. West Texas Intermediate up 1.2%, 39.75 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It is indeed. Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. So Jason and I talked about this early. It's the perfect beach read, social distancing beach read, mind you, or staycation or work from homecation read. There's
work
lots of
from homecation?
You know, I didn't get a lot of sleep. I'm throwing a lot of words out there. It has stolen Super Bowl rings, it has corporate espionage, and the most famous art heist in modern history. It is time for Business Week's annual heist issue. It's a double issue, lots of stories of mystery and things gone missing. Behind it all, features editor Max Chafkin on the phone from Queens, New York, along with Bloomberg Business Week editor Joel Weber on the phone in Massachusetts. Joel and Max, got to tell you, we love this issue. And I feel like it's what everybody needs right now.
Well, that was why we made it.
Go ahead, Joel.
Well, you know, this is a third annual heist issue. It's a huge testament to one Max Chafkin, who has become just the captain of this thing. And, you know, Max and I just like all year long are basically like talking about this issue and like putting together our works in progress list, our WIP list, and, you know, trying to figure out the ones that are going to make it or not make it. And, you know, this issue is a culmination, really, of that process. And a huge testament to him. And, you know, all these reads, you know, we've always joked that we want to kind of steal your summer with this issue. And boy, could we have come out at a better moment in time for that. So hopefully everyone can, you know, pack this around all summer long and take their time enjoying it because the stories are just tremendously good. Max, what is your favorite?
I mean, you know, I love them all, but the story that Carol mentioned at the top, the Super Bowl ring heist, is epic and wonderful. It's by Zeke Fox, and I don't want to ruin the whole thing, but it's about a very, very, very committed New England Patriots fan who decided in basically about 13 years ago to get revenge on the Giants, and the way he decided to do that was by stealing their Super Bowl ring.
And it wasn't even the biggest heist that he went after. And for that, you'll have to read the story. You know, you guys talked with Claire Suddeth yesterday about her story about the Gardner Museum, where this $500 million mystery remains this sort of thing in the art world that no one has ever been able to crack. My favorite little detail about that is we've called it the case of the empty frames, because the museum has to keep the frames empty on the walls because otherwise the entire museum would actually turn over to Harvard. They have to keep things exactly as they were when the heirs handed them down and created the museum. So it's like a heist within a heist if they act out of line. And the stories just kind of keep going. There's an amazing one that we just published today by Natalie Obiko-Pearson about Huawei and Canada, where there was once a company called Nortel. A mysterious hack sank that company. Huawei, it coincides with basically the moment in time that Huawei really started to emerge as a dominant force, and actually Huawei ended up hiring a whole team of Nortel engineers who basically ended up being the ones that built 5G at Huawei. So all of these stories, it's a way of talking, and there's another one that we'll talk more about tomorrow, I hope, that make it very of the moment. So it's a way for us to be both timely and timeless, which is sort of one of my favorite attributes that we try to do.
They're just so much fun. So Max, I'm just curious about the conversations you guys have in the newsroom when you're putting this together. You got to think about it. It comes out every year, at least for the last 4 years. So, what goes on in the newsroom as you get ready, and you plan for this?
Well, so, I mean, these are mostly fun. Not every story in this issue is what I would call, 100% ball laughs. But for the most part, we're talking about stories that are fun and entertaining to report and entertaining to write and entertaining to read. And so, the reporters in the newsroom like this issue. It's a kind of journalist favorite. And so, yeah, throughout the year, like Joel said, we're fielding pitches for these stories. The Super Bowl one that I mentioned was, months in the making. I think we first started talking about it in October or November of last year. And so it's a kind of a combination of just sort of over the year, fielding a bunch of pitches, but then also trying to be a little bit imaginative and think about, what are business stories that you wouldn't necessarily think of as a conventional heist story, but that could be thought of that way. And that's one that's like the Nortel story that Joel mentioned. Also, by the way, happy Canada Day, everybody. I mean, the story is about a Canadian national champion that was, through its own hand, through the market and through a hack, was destroyed. And so it's not a straight up heist, but it is a story where some theft plays a role, and there's also kind of a sort of business theft that is like one company taking another company's market share. So we try to take a sort of broader view of heist, but of course we have to have some like just classic, take the painting type stories, and we actually have two of those issues. So it's a mix.
Canada Day. Got to do a Zoom cocktail party for that one a little bit later on.
There you go.
Just thinking.
So, Max, just one last quick question for you. I mean, as you thought about this issue, and as Joel pointed out, this is one that you're talking about for months and months and months of it in advance. Obviously, the world changed pretty dramatically over the past 4 or 5 months. How does pandemic sort of infuse a project like this, other than everybody's working remotely and you're probably doing, to Carol's point just a minute ago, a lot more Zoom calls? But how does it affect it editorially?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the process, it's all the usual tough stuff that everybody's going through. But in terms, we thought a lot about how to treat the pandemic, because on one hand, maybe people don't want to read anything about an art theft or something like that, because it couldn't be furthest from your mind right now. And our thought was like, look, people need a break. Where people are ready to. Obviously, there's room for all kinds of stories, and the pandemic. There is a teensy bit of pandemic in this issue, but we just thought, time to give people a little bit of a break. Let them read some news and read some stories that don't touch on this horrible thing that we're going through, and hopefully readers will appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's great timing. Jason and I are still talking about the bee story. We just love that one from last year.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Re-up that. Go to businessweek.com and re-up that. Max Chafkin, thank you so much. Features editor for Bloomberg, the architect of the heist issue. Our thanks as well to Joel Weber, the editor of Bloomberg Businessweek. Carol?
Yeah, great stuff. Check it out, everyone, because it really is fun stories and something different. I just love how they put this all together. All right, for those of you listening in New York, D.C., and San Francisco, watching on YouTube, Bloomberg Business Week continues. If you're listening on Bloomberg 106.1 in Boston, Bay State Business is coming up next. And coming up next, Jason, we're going to do a little bit more on the Fed Minutes. A friend of the show, Vinny Catalano, will be back with us, so we'll see what he has to say, and we got more stuff to come.
Yeah, we do. We're going to catch up with David Cody, the former CEO of Honeywell, later on. He's got a new book out. We're going to talk to him about leadership, equality, lots of different things, long-termism that is coming more and more to the fore. Brian Berger, CEO of Mack Weldon, and we got a little Mission Impossible.
How great is that?
Take you out. Love it.
Love it, love it. All right, stick around. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar, Jason Kelly, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
News without analysis is like...
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like when your week off is forecast warm and sunny. Or when there's an extra unclaimed sausage left on the barbecue. Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage. Yeah, that feeling. Nice, isn't it? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Ever wondered how people's postcode lottery works? Easy. Your postcode is your ticket. And every weekday it gives you the chance to win £1,000 or £30,000 every weekend. And every month players in your postcode could win a share of £3 million. Join in at postcodelottery.co.uk/radio before midnight on the 23rd of July to play in the August draws. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 16 plus. Conditions apply. Play responsibly.
Listening has always taught us a lot at Honda. And lately, we've been listening to your thumbs. Because thumbs can do everything now. The world is at their thumb tips. So now, the My Honda Plus app lets the thumb take control of your car too. Even when you're not inside the new Honda E, your thumb can find where you parked, set the temperature before you get in, check how much the battery is charged, and schedule charging for when electricity is cheapest. The new Honda E and My Honda Plus app. Oh, a thumbs up. Honda, the power of dreams.
My name is Danya. I moved to Manchester in 2010. I came from Afghanistan. The first school day was a bit tough. I had no friends, couldn't speak English, and felt a bit left out. My high school teacher was very supportive. She matched me up with friends that spoke the same language as me. Having friends gave me a lot of confidence. I felt like I'm not being left out.
Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Get free one-to-one support with our teacher training advisors to get one step closer to the classroom. Subject to eligibility. Search Get Into Teaching.
Hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading on this first trading day of the second half, Wednesday, July 1st. The Dow lower, little changed. S&P, NASDAQ, both advancing. But first, Apple says it will close more stores again after recent spikes in COVID-19 cases in the United States. The company says it's closing several stores in the LA area, along with locations in Las Vegas, Alabama, Idaho, Oklahoma, Georgia, and Louisiana. It earlier shut stores in Florida and Mississippi, Texas, and Utah, bringing the total to 77. Apple shares are trading lower, down now by about 0.1%. The latest Fed Minute show, Federal Reserve officials had, quote, many questions about the benefits of yield curve control when they discussed its pros and cons during their meeting in early June. Central bankers left rates near zero at the session, which was conducted via video conference. A barometer of American manufacturing registered its largest gain since 1980 as cities and states lifted pandemic restrictions while businesses called back furloughed workers and added to payrolls. And with more on the story, here's Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice.
The ISM Factory Index advanced by almost 10 points in June to 52 points.
Okay, let's see what's happened. We sold British pound against dollar for price 124.701. Great trade. We made £7,000 on it. So I will show everything in about 5 minutes. So position closed on British pound with profit £7,000. Okay.
Now down 0.6%, says it will boost its domestic schedule for August to 48% of last year's level. Among some of the airline names again today, UAL down 0.6%, American Airlines Group lower by 2%, Southwest is trading down 0.8%, Delta lower now by 1.3%. S&P up 18. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
And it's time to do a little Business Week economics. Let's talk about everything that's going on in the world of economics, Carol, because those Fed minutes, obviously very important in terms of setting the tone. Happy to catch up with Vinny Catalano.
Yeah, he's Chief Market Strategist over at Stuyvesant Capital Management, Global Investment Strategist at Defoe Redmount, on the phone from New Jersey. Vinny, nice to have you back with us. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing okay. I'm trying to make sense, and just watching the virus developments, watching the economy, watching the market moves. And, of course, we had those Fed minutes earlier. You have some thoughts about the role of the Fed in which you talk about perpetuating a broken economic system. How so?
Okay. Several years ago, I had an email debate going on with the then Minneapolis Fed President, Narayana Kocherlakota, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
Well done.
And I asked a simple question, is the Fed backstopping bad economic behavior? Because that can happen from time to time. And his response was an interesting one. It was that they are appointed officials, and it is not their job to disagree with. They might disagree with, but it's not their job to implement different policy than elected officials, meaning politicians. And I just let that thought, okay, it sunk in for a while. And then I'm looking at the way the market has, how the Fed has behaved and how the markets have behaved in the economy and everything else over the years. And a couple of other things started to fall into place, which deals with the fact that we're in an economic system, which I call neoliberalism, which is the replacement from Keynesianism. And there are certain dynamics and elements that happen within this economic system of neoliberalism that involve a proactive central bank. So now if you put those two things together, what you get is you get a proactive Fed, not reactive like it had been in the past, but since the mid-1990s, the Fed has been proactive. It's been stepping in. It's been avoiding, doing its best to have the economy avoid an economic downturn. Recessions cannot happen. And we end up getting these 10-year period big hits to the economy because they don't allow the normal process to occur. So the Fed is acting in this proactive manner. Elected officials love that idea because they don't have to make the hard choices. And we do need a new economic system because clearly neoliberalism has run its course. Just like Keynesianism ran its course, neoliberalism has run its course. We need something new, but it's not going to happen because I call the Fed the monetary Praetorian Guard. They are the protectors of the emperor. They're the protectors of the empire.
All right. We got a lot of questions. So you got to wait. Hold on a second. So go ahead, Jace. I think you've got something.
Well, I mean, I have many questions, but so how much of this is crisis-induced, Vinny, and how much of this was just going on before and now it's much more apparent?
Okay, everything seems to be a crisis. At least in terms of...
Well, this is a big one. I think we can agree this is a pretty big one.
This is a big one, and this was needed. And this is where the Fed traditionally has been reactive. It's necessary to do because of what's happened, circumstances, force the situation. But in prior periods, at the end of 2015 and the early part of 2016, when they went into the QE to infinity toolbox, it was at a point in time in which the financial markets were turning down. The economy was getting a little bit weak. It wasn't necessary at that point in time, at least from what I can tell, that they had to step in at that particular juncture. So there were points along the way in which they did things that did not allow the economy to go through its normal creative destructive process, as painful as that is, and then things build up and build up and build up, and then something comes along, a catalyst. So, this one was unusual, and then we end up with where we're at now.
All right. So, okay, we've only got about 2 minutes, a little bit over. So what should be the new economic system? And the other thing, though, I need to ask you, if the Fed did not come in after the Great Recession, after what's happened with the COVID shutdown, I am worried about what might have happened essentially to our economy, our market environment, kind of to our system. Are you saying that we should have just let it come undone?
No, not at those points in time. It was necessary to step in. They did what they needed to do. They stabilized the system. They helped the economy get out of a bad situation. But then along the way, it stepped in repeatedly because of this market-centric mentality of what neoliberalism is. And so therefore, the Fed is just reflecting back on that ideology. What is the system that will replace it? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just know the process.
Vinny, you can't come up and tell me it's this huge problem and then not have a solution.
You're a man of solutions, Vinny.
Well, you know, that's a great point. What you need is what they call, Eric Hoffer called him a man of words. Let's call him a person of words, somebody who writes the economic theory.
Yeah.
That then gets adopted by the person of action. And if you look at neoliberalism, the person of words was Milton Friedman, Frederick Hayek.
Right.
50s and 60s, and then along comes Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher. Boom, it gets implemented.
Those are the people of action.
Listen, I will say, and we're running out of time, but this is one of those things we could, sit down at a bar, have some good red wine, and really talk about it for a long time. But I do agree that there are some things in our economic system that we know, and certainly these crises continue to lay it out for us, that we need to look at our system and maybe rework some things so that it works better. Vinny, always provocative. Have a great holiday. Okay. Nice to check in with you, Vinny. Yeah, be well. Vinny Catalano, Chief Market Strategist at Stuyvesant Capital Management, Global Investment Strategist at Defoe Redmount, on the phone from New Jersey.
Also a character. As you just heard.
He's a great character.
Super smart,
yeah.
Hyper connected, and always thinking every time he comes into our studio, and he often visits us when we're at home in our studio. He brings cool guests. Like, he's a very thoughtful guy, and thinks a lot about the markets in a very holistic sense.
Well, and his whole point about all of this, and it's, he said it in his notes, that if you leave this unchecked, it's going to build until an even greater breaking point is reached, one greater than that which has been experienced thus far. And that's the point, and that's why he's saying we got to do something differently. All right, let's get back to world and national news headlines. Back on over to Mark Mills. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Carol, thank you. Arizona recorded more coronavirus deaths, infections, and emergency room admissions in a single day than ever before, in a rapidly deepening crisis Wednesday across the Sunbelt that sent a shudder through other parts of the country and led a number of states to put their reopening plans on hold. The Trump administration is stepping up the defense of its response to the intelligence assessments that suggested Russia had offered bounties for killing U.S. troops in Afghanistan. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien said the administration was preparing to act if the intelligence panned out.
Here at the White House, when we had this raw intelligence, we started an interagency process to look at options so that if the intelligence turned out to be verified, if it could be corroborated, then we'd have options to go to the president with to address the Russian situation.
New Jersey Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill says the president should step up and explain all the facts and what he will do about it.
We need to hear from the president right now that if there are Russian bounties out on our troops overseas, that he's going to support our troops.
Police in Seattle have cleared out protesters and torn down their camping sites in the city's so-called occupied protest zone when the mayor ordered it cleared after 2 fatal shootings at the site in less than 2 weeks. Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best.
Our job is to support peaceful demonstrations. But what has happened here on these streets over the last 2 weeks, few weeks that is lawless and it's brutal. And bottom line, it is simply unacceptable.
Fox News on Wednesday fired daytime news anchor Ed Henry after he was charged with sexual misconduct in the workplace. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Mark Mills. This is Bloomberg.
Whether planes are landing or not.
Look, some of these are not going to keep open.
The coronavirus crisis will reduce passenger numbers by half.
Whether or not imports are arriving.
Are you revising your estimates upwards now?
We're still focused on Europe.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson is urging consumers to go out and shop.
Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
Haven't you guys missed the boat?
Weekdays at 1 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The best of Bloomberg Business Week every...
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like when your week off is forecast warm and sunny. Or when there's an extra unclaimed sausage left on the barbecue. Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage. Yeah, that feeling. Nice, isn't it? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Ever wondered how people's postcode lottery works? Easy. Your postcode is your ticket. And every weekday it gives you the chance to win £1,000 or £30,000 every weekend. And every month players in your postcode could win a share of £3 million. Join in at postcodelottery.co.uk/radio before midnight on the 23rd of July to play in the August draws. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 16 plus. Conditions apply. Play responsibly.
Honda. We're not a car company. We're more of a listening company. And now our ears have brought our attention to where people feel most comfortable, the lounge. So we asked ourselves, what could Honda do to innovate in this space? Well, how about more space? Calm and uncluttered, with modern yet retro styling, and built-in screens compatible with your games console. It's the most comfortable lounge you've ever driven. Introducing the new Honda E, our small electric city car. Honda. The power of dreams.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished. With over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Should your kids go back to school? Ask Andrea. She's a teacher.
We're doing everything we can to keep the children safe and happy at school, which is why it's great that more of those who can are coming back. Not only for their education, but for their overall well-being too. It gives them a routine, helps develop their social skills, and they get to see their friends too.
If your child is eligible, they should return to school. The government is working towards getting all pupils back in September. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Give yourself a Diet Coke break.
Mike's mother of all marinades.
I love my homemade barbecue marinades. The only problem is no one else does. So today I'm trying something new. Caramelized crispy pork belly tumbled in sea salt, red chili, black pepper and sugar. And sweet sticky chicken fillets in tangy mango, coconut and lime. This is amazing.
Yeah, because you didn't make it.
Introducing the new Fire Pit range, exclusively at Tesco. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco. Available in the majority of larger stores while stocks last.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
Stay close to college hoops conversation with the College Basketball Talk podcast from NBC Sports. Join Rob Doster and Bobby Reagan for weekly recaps of what's happening in every conference, nostalgic flashbacks to classic games, and big picture discussions on the future of the sport.
Yes, they found a way to ensure that there was a financial incentive for be able to get paid for K to go there, if that makes sense. But it's not, there was still a recruitment involved, right? Let me think about it like this.
Search College Basketball Talk on TuneIn to listen.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. A developer says Elon Musk has agreed to sell his L.A. properties, something he promised to do just a couple of months ago. Let's head right over to the First Word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. NASDAQ is outperforming again today. Dow's currently down 12 points. S&P's gained 19, but NASDAQ is higher by 1%. FANG stocks up 2.5%. The U.S. 10-year yield at 0.68%. Gold trading lower by 10. WTI crude futures are up 1%, and transports are little changed. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Pfizer, Merck, and Disney, while Walgreens and Boeing led to the downside. In other news, Tesla overtook Toyota as the world's most valuable automaker. Dun & Bradstreet opened at 25. The IPO was priced at 22. And Pfizer's chief science officer said their COVID vaccine is very promising. After earnings, FedEx rose as much as 16.7%. After earnings, that is the most ever. Live from the First Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie?
Okay, we thank you very much, Bill, and to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg type squawk, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly and Carol Masser here with you on... What day is it again, Carol?
It's Wednesday, Lemon. You know what? That's so funny that you say that. I have had a hard time this week, man, trying to figure out where I am.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's Wednesday, Lemon.
It is? Yeah. Is it Wednesday? Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah. But it's complicated by being a shortened trading week, the holiday, and it's just 16 weeks in, Jason Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it is. I'm just trying to sort of figure out where I go from where.
You're Jason Kelly.
Am I, though?
Yes,
I really don't know. I don't know who I am or who I'm supposed to be at this point. All right, let's get to our next story. Emily Chasen is back with us. She's talking about what we're all doing, which is working from home, Carol. Yes. And she is here to talk about what we do in a green world. Can we be sustainable while we're working from home? I would like to be, Emily Chasen. She joins us on the phone. Tell me what we should be thinking about.
Yeah, hi, Jason. Hi, Carol. So in our Bloomberg Green newsletter this week, I was looking at what happened when everybody worked from home. And, daily U.S. carbon emissions were down 15% from March to early June. So just eliminating the commute was a huge impact in terms of reducing emissions. But it turns out that's only part of the story. While all these people were working from home, we also talked to Google, and Google found that the number of people searching for how to live a sustainable lifestyle increased by 4,550% during the coronavirus period. So people are trying to be more sustainable at home.
I love your story because what you say when it comes to those Google searches, people are searching on composting, switching to green energy providers. That has all become popular. I mean, I do agree that folks, don't laugh at me, Jason. I'm tired.
I'm only laughing because I can only see the very top of your head because you moved your screen down.
Sorry, I had to stand up. No, but what's interesting, Emily, is we've been having this conversation, whether it's talking about sustainability, whether it's about race and diversity. Like, we're all at home kind of really looking, or, what we're eating. We talked about this with Impossible Foods, the CFO, like what we're eating. We're really taking a deep dive into our life and looking at kind of our actions. And that plays into what you write about in terms of sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, when you're home, all the stuff that's visible to you, most people haven't spent that much time in their home or just kind of come in and out every day. And spending all the time, you're like, well, what am I really doing here? And it's very visible to you. And the things that you can do to actually reduce your emissions impact are maybe not that obvious, like using the dishwasher is more energy and water efficient than hand washing dishes. Using cold water to wash your clothes in the laundry saves a huge amount of emissions. Like if you talk to Procter & Gamble or Seventh Generation, they'll say that is a huge impact.
I do almost all my laundry in cold water.
Really?
Yeah, forever. And part of it is because it's better on your clothes, because hot water really, in terms of the colors and pigments, so I almost always do all cold water on almost all of my clothes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And one of the interesting ones today, we found this story this week about toilet paper. I guess the stuff that we were getting in the office is made of more recycled content, and the fluffier stuff you buy at home is made of more virgin wood pulp from trees.
Oh, my God, Emily.
We went so deep on that story, Emily. It was actually, I think, disturbing to our listeners because we talked ad nauseum about toilet paper.
Emily, it was a TMI moment.
Yeah, it was just, there was so much about buying habits, and I'm glad you weren't listening. But it is an important story. It's an important piece of the story.
But it's an awareness, right? Like we have had now the soft toilet paper conversation at home, and we might have to rethink that. I mean, my husband's like, "Do you really need that soft stuff?" And but we're thinking about this stuff, right?
Yeah, well, I guess, one thing that's interesting about this period, too, is there's a lot more single-use plastic out there. People are seeing sort of the masks and the gloves on the ground and thinking, oh, well, am I using all the plastic? And, when you eliminate your commute, you're actually probably reducing some of your single-use plastic because you don't have that coffee cup to go or anything like that. But, the plastics industry has really pushed that, their stuff is safe right now. And Greenpeace just this month put out a piece saying, reusable bags and cups are still safe. Like they didn't want people to think that you have to do single use to be safe. You can still wash things and they're still safe from coronavirus.
Yeah, I think we need to understand that. We're on a mission in our home to get rid of, and I'm really sorry, Ziploc, but Ziploc bags and things. Like we've been buying a lot of those, the new kinds of, is it silicone, the plastic and stuff that's supposed to be safer in terms of what,
and the wax paper and things.
Yeah, like really rethinking that because you can go through so much of that stuff.
Yeah. Right? Well, it's interesting to change when people change habits too. When you do that, or stop buying straws. What you do is it's kind of hard in sustainability to unsee it, right? Once you see something and you start doing it, you're kind of not going to go backwards on that behavior. So it's pretty interesting as people adopt it and as they're going to stay home more. That this could be sort of a long-term impact.
Well, and I will say, and I know you experienced this too, Carol, kids are a great check on this, especially teenagers who are definitely much more environmentally aware, calling us out on, things, whether it's single-use stuff or, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, printing. In any case, Emily Chasen, thank you so much, sustainability editor for Bloomberg, joining us on the phone from New York City.
My family is on me. That's really, as you well know, as our producer Paul Brennan knows, and anybody on the Bloomberg Business Week team, I print a lot of stuff.
Everyone who's ever been around you knows
I know.
that.
I like
it's really an Achilles heel for you.
Yeah, it's a bad thing, and I've got to figure out. My daughter's like, there's things like iPads, Mom.
Yeah, I don't know. There are these computer screens where you can put an unlimited amount of documents there, and you can sift through them and sort through them.
It's just like I like a book. It's just who I am, as you know. All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. We're moving on, kids. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Federal Reserve officials worried as they met last month about the severity of the economic downturn. Minutes from their discussion show officials grappling with the disruption and noting that the crisis was not falling equally on all Americans. Release of the Fed minutes had little impact on stocks. Prices remain narrowly higher. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 5, the S&P up 21, the NASDAQ up 113. Apple is reclosing more of its retail stores following recent spikes in COVID-19 cases. The latest to close includes stores in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Georgia. The total is now 77. Apple previously had reopened more than 200 U.S. stores. Dun & Bradstreet is making a solid stock market debut after raising $1.7 billion in an initial public offering. D&B is one of Wall Street's oldest data providers, tracing its origins to 1841. Its shares are up 13%. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
You're fierce. You take care of business and don't hold back. Taking care of your health shouldn't be any different. You know when something's off. Don't ignore symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, and rashes. Listen to your body. It could be lupus. We're here to help you take control. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
If knowledge is power, the Bloomberg Terminal is your power up, connecting you to real-time financial data, market-moving news, powerful analytics, and an influential network of financial decision makers around the world. Share ideas, negotiate trades, and gain the insight you need to make more informed decisions. See how the terminal can take your workflow to the next level at Bloomberg.com/professional.
How long? How much?
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like discovering that the box of chocolates has a whole other layer underneath? Or scoring extra poppadoms with your takeaway? Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage? Yeah, that moment feels good, right? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Listen, that's a dream. Everyone has them, jingling away in the back of our minds. And most of the time, that's where dreams stay. So easy to ignore. Anything can drown them out, and everything does. But at Honda, we listen to our dreams. We get right up close. And on really good days, they become reality. From 2022, Honda's mainstream cars will only be hybrid or electric. Honda, the power of dreams.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished. With over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
How do we control coronavirus now? Listen to Steph. She's a bus driver.
Now that people are using public transport again, we really need to make sure that we keep each other safe. Passengers need to stay 2 metres apart. If that's not possible, make it at least 1 metre. I want to see everyone wearing face coverings over their mouth and nose unless you've got a good reason not to. And when you get to where you're going, you need to wash your hands. We've still got to play our part.
Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
When you buy tech online and you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, would you rather talk to an algorithm or to someone called Al or Jack or Miguel or Haley or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience?
Hey, I'm Ali. How can I help?
Isn't it nice to get expert advice from another human being before you buy? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
Whether you're dreaming of a house the size of a football stadium or a football stadium in the back garden of your house, what you need is dream come true money. Luckily, Friday's Euro Million Super Jackpot is a massive £110 million. Now that's dream come true money. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Play online or on the app. Estimated jackpot rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
730 to Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
It is Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Messer along with Jason Kelly on this. Yes, it's Wednesday. Coming up, we've got the chart of the day with Dave Wilson, and we're going to talk Tesla.
I know. I can't wait for this.
Me too.
This is going to be a really good one. He did a really nice tease at the top of the show. So also want to hear the song, and I know Charlie Pellet wants to hear the song too. He's got some headlines. Hey, Charlie.
I'm still waiting for Dancing Queen Dave Wilson. Here's what's going on. We've got the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ. They're all pushing hard. 28 minutes to go ahead of the close here. S&P up for a third day. NASDAQ on track for a record as an early trial of an experimental shot from Pfizer. And BioNTech shows it is safe, also prompting patients to produce antibodies. Right now, shares of Pfizer, they're up 4.1%. BioNTech shares, they are up by 2.4%. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all advancing. S&P up 24, up 0.8%. NASDAQ up 124, up 1.2%. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 28 points, higher by 0.1%. 10-year down 7/30 seconds. The yield right now 0.68%. Gold down 0.5% at $17.71 the ounce. Crude up 1.4%, $39.83 a barrel. Equities did come off session highs after California and Arizona reported their biggest daily virus case increases. Also, Houston's intensive care units exceeded full capacity, now at 102% of capacity. It is 3:32 on Wall Street, and that means it's time now for the Small Business Report, and here's John Tucker.
Well, we last spoke to Jasmine and Alori at Manhattan Sage Kitchen and Catering in early May. The restaurant was closed because of the pandemic. She was relying on takeout and delivery to generate revenue. Jazzy, as she likes to be called, is circling back with us this morning. Where do things stand now with the business?
We happen to be in a more unique situation again because our neighbors on top of us 2 days before the looting and riots started decided to have an accidental fire. So on top of Corona, I have a water-damaged restaurant. So it's been definitely an experience for me. So I think we're a little bit of a more unique situation in the restaurant world right now because we were planning to open and now we can't because we've been part of an accidental fire.
It's just like piling on for you.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was like Friday morning before the riots. I got a phone call and came to see the third floor windows all shattered and the restaurant soaked in some dirty water. And then 2 days later, we had to board up because 3 out of the 7 places on the street got broken into.
Now, with the catering business, is that enough to sustain you?
Long term, no. I mean, fortunately enough, because there was a fire, we're not paying rent while we have to do the construction. So I guess it bought us some time with our landlord. But in the long term, it's not sustainable.
Jazzy, we hope all the best for you and your business. Jasmine and Alori, she's a partner at Manhattan Sage Kitchen and Catering. I'm John Tucker. That's the Bloomberg Small Business Report.
And we thank you very much, John. Again, recapping equities pushing higher. S&P up 0.8%. Briefly, FedEx after earnings surging 12%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
We're gonna rock on to Electric Avenue, and then we'll take it higher.
Wilson promised that Charlie would be dancing to this, and if he's not, there's something wrong with him, because this is an awesome song. Electric Avenue, come on.
Eddie Grant? Is that who that is?
Congratulations, Carol. You are correct.
I did not.
I can see you.
But you know what? It has a Men at Work sound, too, doesn't he?
A little bit.
Right?
You know, it sounds arguably like Down Under.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good choice, because we were really speculating about what song you were going to go with.
Well, you know, Electric Avenue.
Out of my
that's
dreams,
the
get
one
into
that
my car.
investors have been driving down literally for a while now, and that's why I picked it. I mean, it seemed to fit Avenue, cars, other vehicles. That's what we're talking about here. You know, it was striking to look at just how much these makers of electric cars and trucks and vans, or at least companies that want to develop them, just what kind of second quarter they had. And the chart gives you 3 of them. Tesla, of course, front and center, because today it passed Toyota Motor, become the world's largest car maker by market value. But it pretty much got there in the second quarter as its shares more than doubled. and the price rose above $1,000 for the first time. But that was really just the tip of the iceberg when it came to electric vehicle stocks. You had Nikola, the truck developer that agreed to go public in March by merging with one of these blank check companies, was up 535%.
Wow.
And they didn't even get the deal done until the quarter was more than halfway over. So, that just shows you how much demand there was. And Workhorse Group, that's another one. They're in the delivery van business, and in the last 4 quarters, they've had less than $100,000 of sales. And they were up 861% in the quarter. Now, they also have ties to this company that took over the General Motors plant in Lordstown, Ohio, and they want to do electric pickups. But, that gain was enough for the biggest advance in the quarter in the Russell 3000 index, which they joined on Monday after the annual overhaul known as the reconstitution. So 3 stocks to watch for sure. If you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
That's a really important story because I feel like because we've obviously been focusing a lot of other things, rightfully so, that are also in the headlines, but I do feel like we've stopped talking as much about electric vehicles, except when we watch kind of what's going on with Tesla specifically, Dave. But those other names, Workhorse, and some of the other
Nikola,
names, Nikola. Like, it's interesting to see what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, you put it all together, you could argue that this becomes an investment fad like so many that we've seen over the years, ethanol or 3D printers or whatever the heck it is. That's when things get interesting.
Yeah, exactly, especially when you dig a little bit deeper into those balance sheets. Jason, what were you going to ask?
No, I just think about all the, I shouldn't say poor, but maybe they are a little poor now, like all those Tesla shorts, man, all those Tesla bears that,
there was a while where being a Tesla short paid off.
There was. But I mean, Jim Chanos was on with Scarlett last week as part of Bloomberg Invest, and he's still short Tesla. But others have given up.
Dave, what's it going to take to play Dancing Queen?
It'll just take the right chart, Carol. You never know.
All right.
It's got to be right. You can't force it. You can't force it, Carol.
I know.
Although I will tell you, I saw the Eurovision Song Contest movie on Netflix.
Is it good?
Is it good?
It's, it's fun.
It's about what you would expect.
Of course, the first thing they show you is ABBA because that's how they got famous, by winning the Eurovision Song Contest.
I know. This is the Will Ferrell,
right?
Rachel McAdams vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
I proposed that to my wife to watch, and she was like, no. Let's move on.
Yeah, exactly.
In any case, I'm glad you watched it. Good review. All right. Thank you, Dave. Talk to you in a bit. All right. Let's get some world and national headlines now. For that, we go to Mark Mills. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Jason. Thank you. California and Arizona have both reported their biggest daily increases in cases of coronavirus. Miami-Dade County in Florida reporting the highest numbers of COVID-19 intensive care patients since at least early April. California reporting 9,740 new infections, its biggest ever. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said beaches in Florida are not the big risk. Indoor gatherings are.
I'm more concerned about, people crowding into the AC and having private parties and things like that where you're real close contact.
New York City will hold off on a plan to allow indoor dining at restaurants as the city proceeds to the next phase of its reopening on July 6th. Mayor Bill de Blasio did, however, have some good news.
Our New York City beaches open today. We are ready for a great holiday weekend. The lifeguards are ready to go. New Yorkers can stay cool.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is calling on President Trump to address the country on the coronavirus's devastating comeback.
It's time for the president to actually tell the truth. The first thing he can do, come clean with the American people, admit the threat of this virus, admit you were wrong.
Yale University plans to hold most classes online next semester and require those students who do attend on campus to be tested weekly for the coronavirus outbreak there. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Mark Mills. This is Bloomberg.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President and Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Are you interested? You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like discovering that the box of chocolates has a whole other layer underneath, or scoring extra poppadoms with your takeaway, or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage. Yeah, that moment feels good, right? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
What would the world be like if we listened more? At Honda, our ears are always open to new ideas. Oh, there's one now, knocking on our eardrum. What's that? What if we made a car with cameras instead of wing mirrors? A robot mower that knows when it's time to cut the grass. A self-balancing motorcycle. And what if by 2022, all of our mainstream cars were hybrid or electric? Huh. Great idea. Thanks, ears. Honda. The power of dreams.
My name is Danya. I moved to Manchester in 2010. I came from Afghanistan. The first school day was a bit tough. I had no friends, couldn't speak English, and felt a bit left out. My high school teacher was very supportive. She matched me up with friends that spoke the same language as me. Having friends gave me a lot of confidence. I felt like I'm not being left out.
Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Get free one-to-one support with our teacher training advisors to get one step closer to the classroom. Subject to eligibility. Search Get Into Teaching.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished, with over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, this is Mike Tirico, introducing you to Sports Uncovered, the newest podcast series from the storytellers at NBC Sports that will shine a fresh light on the most unforgettable moments in sport.
The reason why I'm smiling, I might get in trouble for this.
Search Sports Uncovered to start listening today.
How do hockey fans know what day it is? Just turn on the Locked on NHL podcast, where a rotating cast of hockey experts guide you through the week with a different theme show for every day. From big news Monday to recap Friday.
But we've got a couple of news items that are noteworthy in the NHL in the last week, one of which is below the NHL, and we'll bring that up first. So the AHL announced officially, this has been speculated for weeks and weeks, but the AHL...
Search Locked on NHL and tune in to listen.
Who says you can't have a laugh while getting serious about America's pastime? On the daily podcast Locked On MLB, comedian and baseball fanatic Paul Francis Sullivan talks about each team, each pennant race, and everything else in the game, from rule changes and controversies to baseball cards and stadium food.
For those of you who are not familiar with me or the old show, I love to obsess over baseball. I'm talking baseball over the Super Bowl. We had a TV showing the division series during my wedding.
Search Locked On MLB on TuneIn to listen today.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
Hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. Want to begin with a couple of headlines from the Bloomberg Professional Service. Pennsylvania's governor is mandating mask wearing outside of the home, and Sears is exploring the sale of its home services division. This according to Reuters. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, they're all higher right now. 27-point gain for the S&P 500 index, up 0.9%. The Dow's up 22 points, up 0.1. NASDAQ up 134. That is a gain of 1.3%. Stocks are higher as positive vaccine developments and better than expected manufacturing data temper concern over a jump in coronavirus cases. Wall Street, meanwhile, awaiting tomorrow morning's all-important jobs report. Just as importantly, we'll be getting first-time jobless claims. 10-year down 6/32, yield 0.67%. We've got gold lower now by 0.5%, $17.72 the ounce. Crude, West Texas Intermediate up 1.4%, $39.81 a barrel. Recapping, equities holding on to gains. Stick around to find out where we close. S&P up 26, up by 0.8%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home? Honey, please, I'll do the driving. Drive on. Excuse me, I want to drive. Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
And it is time for the drive to the close. Let's head south. Check back in with Kara Murphy, Chief Investment Officer for Goldman Sachs Personal Financial Management. Joining us on the phone from Dallas, also a proud Hoya, I will point out, alum of that fine institution. Kara, great to have you back with Carol and myself. So what's it like in Dallas right now?
Well, it's amazing how quickly we've gone to being relatively unaffected by COVID to a new hotspot. So my it hasn't changed too much, but definitely the headlines have.
So your life hasn't changed that much?
Well, we've been locked down since mid-March. You know, I spend a lot of walking up and down my street, not going to restaurants. And so, you know, that really hasn't changed. But driving around, you know, recently you had seen definitely more people out and about. I think that's probably starting to change again. But, you know, personally, we're holed up like everybody else.
So what does it mean as we, you know, Jason and I kind of kid that, you know, we make a little bit of progress and then we fall back? I mean, that's certainly what we're seeing here in terms of the reopening. But it's not just about the reopening. It's about the implications it has, obviously, on individuals, on the economy. Markets seem to be okay with it. So there is that disconnect. But how do you see it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we can expect that there are going to be a lot of fits and starts with this virus for quite some time. So we're probably going to have to get used to this. But when we look very broadly at the market, and it's incredible to say this, given all of the volatility that we've seen over the last couple of months, but when we look at the market today, it feels about fairly valued. And one way that we look at it is, you know, on purely a valuation basis. If you compare where we are today to a very long-term historical average, we look expensive. But then if you isolate those periods in history where inflation is low and stable, as it is today, we look about in line with those periods. So that could mean that likely means going forward, we can expect stock returns to be about mid-single digits in line with near-term earnings growth. But it feels like we're about where we should be.
So that's kind of an amazing place to be here in, I was about to say June, but it's actually July 2020, Kara. So what's an investor to do? I mean, I look at this, both from a professional perspective, but also as a guy who has a 401k who, sort of watched everything really plummet and then come back. But I'm still worried because I see the headlines and everything around the virus as well. I see governors and mayors being very, very cautious. And yet I see a market that's like, here we go. So what do you do?
Yeah, and so I think one very interesting lesson that we've had during this downturn, and remember, we've had a recession and a bear market in the last couple of months. It's pretty cool. But one lesson that I took away from that is that this downturn was in many ways very typical. So the speed at which it unfolded was very atypical. What normally takes months or years took weeks. So it's been very hard to kind of get our arms around that. But during the downturn, we had risk assets like stocks and high yield greatly underperform, and we had bonds that did a really great job buffering during that period. And then as the market started to re-accelerate, we had the reverse of that. So a lot of these sort of classic lessons that individual investors should have, I think were the right ones. So you need to have a diversified portfolio. You might be all really excited about stocks, but there are going to be periods when stocks are going to greatly underperform. And so it's really best to have a mix of both.
You sound I just want to break in. You sound fairly enthusiastic, and I just do wonder, we're going to head into another earnings cycle. What do we need to hear when companies report that support the bounce back that we've seen in equities so far?
Yeah, and it's interesting because even just this morning we got some ISM manufacturing data that was quite optimistic, coming in at the headline number coming in at 52.6. This tends to be a pretty good leading indicator for the next couple of months. And also some more contemporaneous data that we've seen in terms of people getting out on the road more, consumer spending. So I think what we're just going to want to see is more on-the-ground data confirming that, people are indeed starting to open their wallets more. Some people are getting back to work. There are obviously some areas of the economy that are going to continue to be really challenged. Think bars are probably going to be really challenged for quite some time. But other areas like technology are able to operate pretty well remotely. I mean, my business, everybody's at home and we're just as productive as we were. So not to say that there aren't challenges, but I think we're going to want to hear from companies that they're continuing to kind of get back to a state of normal.
So, Kara, if you can generalize, what's the tone of the calls that you're getting from clients as you talk to them? How are they feeling? Does it depend on where they are geographically? What's the tone from them?
Yeah, it's very interesting because throughout this period, I will say that by and large, our clients felt okay, which again is remarkable given what we've been through. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One is, I firmly believe that an investment portfolio should be constructed in the context of a financial plan. We have to know what's important to our clients in order to build that plan for them. So what that means is that we talk a lot about long-term goals, about, margin of error. And even though we had a significant downturn in the market, our clients knew that they were still on track to meet those goals. And that's really key to sit through volatility.
I have to say, I mean, that has been a point of comfort for me, at least so far, is you got, you sort of squint your eyes a little bit, you brace yourself, then you look at the 401k, you're like, okay, maybe, maybe we're going to be okay through all of this. Yeah, amazing. All right, Kara Murphy, great to hear your voice. Good luck down in Dallas, especially at what is certainly an uncertain time there in Texas. Kara Murphy is Chief Investment Officer for Goldman Sachs Personal Financial Management, joining us on the phone from the Big D. Carol?
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear what you had to say about Dallas. I forget that they've been in lockdown, too, as long as we have. But, we're going to watch these markets. I feel like the earnings season is going to be interesting. We'll see if we get more visibility, more outlook, companies feeling a little bit more confident. I think that will help set the tone in the equity trade. What? You're being pensive, it feels like.
No, I'm just sort of thinking about sort of what's going on across the country and how different it is at various places, and the headlines just are relentless, and yet the market, I think, says, oh, okay, cool, we're going to get a vaccine, awesome, bye. You know, I really, it's like, and so, trying to synthesize what Kara Murphy is saying, which is very, spot on, but also what Dr. Ian Lesbader is saying, which is also spot on. And I mean, listen, this is our job to try and sort of piece all this together, but it's not easy.
And the jobs report tomorrow can really help us. Vince Signorella sending me a note, the case for a blowout report there. He's getting some research, so he's writing about that. This is Bloomberg.
With a new...
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like discovering that the box of chocolates has a whole other layer underneath? Or scoring extra poppadoms with your takeaway? Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage? Yeah, that moment feels good, right? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
What would the world be like if we listened more? At Honda, our ears are always open to new ideas. Oh, there's one now, knocking on our eardrum. What's that? What if we made a car with cameras instead of wing mirrors? A robot mower that knows when it's time to cut the grass. A self-balancing motorcycle. And what if by 2022, all of our mainstream cars were hybrid or electric? Huh. Great idea. Thanks, ears. Honda. The power of dreams.
My name is Donya. I moved to Manchester in 2010. I came from Afghanistan. The first school day was a bit tough. I had no friends, couldn't speak English, and felt a bit left out. My high school teacher was very supportive. She matched me up with friends that spoke the same language as me. Having friends gave me a lot of confidence. I felt like I'm not being left out.
Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Get free one-to-one support with our teacher training advisors to get one step closer to the classroom. Subject to eligibility. Search Get Into Teaching.
Mike's mother of all marinades.
I love my homemade barbecue marinades. The only problem is no one else does. So today I'm trying something new. Caramelized crispy pork belly tumbled in sea salt, red chili, black pepper and sugar. And sweet sticky chicken fillets in tangy mango, coconut and lime. This is amazing.
Yeah, because you didn't make it. Introducing the new Fire Pit range, exclusively at Tesco. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco. Available in the majority of larger stores while stocks last.
Wanna bet football can make you feel nostalgic?
Playing days are over, so...
On the podcast, NFL Alumni Lounge, Charlie Booth sits down with retired NFL legends to talk about their careers, life after football, and everything in between.
This is Darren Waller. Good to have you.
Yes, sir. It's good to be here.
Dana White, welcome to the Alumni Lounge.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Big member of our NFL alumni family, the CEO of the XFL, Mr. Oliver Luck.
Charlie, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
We're here with the president, Mr. Eric Price. Good to see you.
Search NFL Alumni Lounge on TuneIn to listen.
We're all guilty of spending too much time on social media. Why not add something genuinely useful to your feed with TuneIn? Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn about some of the best stuff happening around the app. You might just discover your next audio obsession.
.com on the Bloomberg Business app and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Closing bell.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. There you have it. The sound of the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange. A NASDAQ record as we wrap up the first trading day of July and the third quarter. This headline from the Bloomberg Professional Service. U.S. virus cases up 1.8%. That is in line with the past week's average. Stocks advanced as positive vaccine developments and better-than-expected manufacturing data tempered concern over a jump in coronavirus cases. The Dow up down 77 points, laid late session fade there really saw the Dow swoon in the final couple of minutes of trading, down 0.3%. S&P up 15, up 0.5%. NASDAQ up 95 points. That is a gain of just about 1%. Halfway through 2020, NASDAQ showing a gain of 13.2%. 10-year down 5/30 seconds with a yield of 0.67%. Gold down 0.5%. 17.72 the ounce, and crude pushing higher, 39.72 a barrel, up today by 1.1%. So a higher day for U.S. stocks, but what about stock market levels? Kara Murphy is Chief Investment Officer at Goldman Sachs Personal Financial Management out of Dallas. She was interviewed moments ago right here on Bloomberg Business Week.
If you compare where we are today to a very long-term historical average, we look expensive. But then if you isolate those periods in history where inflation is low and stable, as it is today, we look about in line with those periods. So that could mean that likely means going forward, we can expect stock returns to be about mid-single digits in line with near-term earnings growth. But it feels like we're about where we should be.
First day of trading for Dun & Bradstreet Holdings, one of Wall Street's oldest data and analytics providers. Shares today of Dun & Bradstreet up by 15.2%. Bloomberg LP, parent of Bloomberg News, competes with Dun & Bradstreet in providing financial information. Tesla displaces Toyota as the world's most valuable automaker. Tesla shares rallying today by another 3.7%. Toyota, the ADR is down by 1.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet, Bloomberg Radio.
Your next move will be your last.
Nobody move a muscle.
Damn, Sippy, you got to move. And I'm moving on from town to town.
Time is money. Let's go. Come on, move it.
Shake it up. Shake it up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers, with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Time to take a look at some of the movers and shakers. You're laughing at me. I have to apologize. I think I yawned on air, so I'm really sorry about that. I'm a little tired today, and I guess the mic wasn't.
I love when we see the human side of Carol Masser.
Oh, my God.
You guys get to see the side that I get to see.
Okay, so let's get to the market, if we may. S&P 500, kind of an even split, a little bit of a different tone, compared to yesterday. So 200, kind of an even split, 213 names higher in the S&P, 292 lower. And if I look at those major industry groups, Jason, 4 were lower. The bottom of the pack was energy, down about 2.3%. Again, real estate, your outperformer, up 2.6%. Utilities, up 2.4%. Communication services, up 2.3%. So that's your trade. What?
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, as you look at sort of the outperformers or the underperformers, the highs and lows, FedEx, unfortunately, we didn't get to talk about FedEx yesterday with Lee Klaskow, who is one of our top guys on the BI team, because we were preempted by the vice president and the coronavirus task force. But, FedEx coming out with some numbers, and you have to think this is part of the reason. I go back to what Kara Murphy was saying, that, the market has continued to go higher, and part of it is because we're getting some pretty good earnings from folks, and earnings that are not just limited to one particular sector, but, FedEx followed, as we talked about yesterday, followed Micron, which also gave a pretty optimistic view of the world. Nobody's saying what 2020 is going to look like ultimately, but quarter to quarter, things are looking better.
Right. They talk a lot with those earnings results. FedEx was up the most since 98, so it was your top performer in the S&P. And what's interesting, too, is they're overhauling their ground unit. Or I guess they began overhauling its ground unit last year, right? And so if you think about all of the online buying that we've been, of course, doing in lockdown, it really set them in a good place for the surge in e-commerce, and they've been able to take advantage of it. So, that really played out in the share price.
And here we go. Not surprising, Amgen and a lot of the other big pharma companies gaining. Amgen actually is moving, it looks like, on a court ruling upholding some patents that it has on a drug called Enbrel, which is a rheumatoid arthritis drug. They had been sued. They won an appeals court ruling that would block a biosimilar of its top-selling rheumatoid arthritis drug by Novartis.
So no competition,
upheld. Right? Yeah, exactly. Patents upheld. So that's good news. So that is your number 2 gainer. We should also point out
Phil Mickelson, right? He does all those ads, featuring that. Yeah. Generated more than $5 billion in sales last year. That's 22% of Amgen's revenue. That's why
it's
the
in the
stock
story. I thought you knew it.
I
was
Phil
going to be very impressed with the little hashtag sports reference
I
there.
actually know. Watch it. I know golf references.
That's good.
Yeah.
Lefty? Phil Mickelson?
Yeah. Is that what you call it? All right,
I know Phil Mickelson. I don't know his nickname, but yeah, it's fine. No, good for you.
Wow, tough crowd, man. Tough crowd. I'm going to just start yawning again.
You yawn once, and they just come for you. That's what happens.
Like, man, the floodgates open up.
One sign of weakness.
Jeez, be nice. I'm your buddy. Okay,
that's true.
Let's talk about Netflix. That stock took off. It's up about 6.7% in today's session. I just want to take a look. Jason, it's up 50% this year.
New buy rating, I believe, for Netflix is part of what's driving that higher. And after service tops must-keep TV list. That's sort of interesting.
What?
That was according to...
It was rated the top TV channel to watch in a new survey of consumers.
Above ABC. ABC, for a long time had been in that spot. Disney's own ABC.
Yeah.
Netflix basically saying, viewers saying, if you got to keep one thing, it's Netflix. I buy that.
Yeah, we just got Disney Plus. I'm setting up for Hamilton.
Oh, interesting.
I'm like, honey, is it all set?
There's some good stuff on Disney Plus.
There's a lot of content.
Yeah, a lot of content.
The Disney world. And listen, if anything that Bob Iger and his team there have been very smart over the last decade plus is tapping into content and then leveraging it across their platforms. So, they've got some really big franchises.
And Hamilton's obviously going to be a big moment for them.
Very cool.
Interesting that's what finally moved you to do that. All right. Let's
Versus
look at the VIX.
Frozen 2?
It's called New Frozen. Let's look at the VIX, down 5.9%, closing at 28.65. This is Bloomberg.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for a price on Wilson. Open up the door. It's Dave. Who? Dave.
Hey,
Mr. Wilson!
All right, save us, Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
What's your stock of the day?
Please save us.
All right, I'll do my best. SailPoint Technologies Holdings is the stock of the day. It's a maker of identification software. The company's products allow businesses to control access to their computer networks. SailPoint was founded in 2005. Private equity firm Thoma Bravo bought a majority stake in 2014, took the company public in 2017. The ticker, logical enough, SAIL. SailPoint shares soared in their first year of trading, more than doubled actually, and set a record in September 2018. The gains didn't last, though. This past March, the stock dropped below its initial price of $12 for the first time. Now, SailPoint has surged since then, and the rally got some help today from Goldman Sachs. Analyst Brian Essex, who had given the stock its only sell rating, changed his call to buy. He raised a 12-month share price estimate by 82% to $31. Essex wrote in a report that SailPoint's business has been, quote, surprisingly strong, especially with larger customers. He added that the stock still has room to rise, and it did just that today. SailPoint set a 15-month high and closed with a gain of 7.3%.
Now up 20% so far this year. It's a $2.5, almost $2.6 billion market cap company. Interesting.
There you go.
Yeah.
For sure.
He did save us. You always save us, Dave.
I do what I can.
You come in and you're like, these two knuckleheads. Right?
I know. That's so New Jersey.
I know. I kind of love that from Governor Murphy.
Well, Governor Murphy's, I feel like he's brought that back. He's brought Knucklehead back.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
He's brought it back, right?
Yeah, exactly. It never really went away, but he's popularized. Never went away in the garden.
T-shirt, Knucklehead. We can do that too.
There you go. Dave Wilson, thanks a lot. Let's get to Ed Baxter in San Francisco. He's got your world national headlines. Hey, Ed.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Hi, Carol. California is joining the parade, shutting down some indoor businesses in counties encompassing over 70% of the state's population. Governor Gavin Newsom says Los Angeles County is included.
Indoor operations in restaurants, wineries, and tasting rooms, movie theaters, family entertainment, broadly defined by guidelines that we had previously put out, zoos, museums,
and card rooms.
Now, he also said the state is setting up what he calls enforcement strike teams, made up of regulators which enact on businesses. He's also discouraging family 4th of July gatherings, saying extended families are among the fastest growing spread of the disease. New York City has hit the pause button and going to phase 3 on its indoor dining.
If you open your eyes, you see the citizen compliance slipping. You see government compliance not correcting it. What's going to happen? The virus is going to spread.
Governor Andrew Cuomo saying people are not taking guidelines seriously. Both governors stressed the importance of wearing masks. The president today said he thinks masks might be a good thing, but they shouldn't be required. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has taken a major shot today at Hong Kong.
Free Hong Kong was one of the world's most stable, prosperous, and dynamic cities. Now it will be just another communist-run city where its people will be subject to the party elite's whims.
And Bloomberg Cherion says the law is already being enforced with some arrests. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
People love a good story. They like it even better when that story is real.
Is this something strange in the numbers?
Paul Sweeney.
That seems like a big miss to me.
Bonnie Quinn.
New funds getting started in order to take advantage of what might be a moment.
Bloomberg Markets, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern.
If Russia does throw this spanner in the works, what does it do to relations going forward?
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
How important is that statement there?
Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
With COVID-19, so much is unknown.
Is this the worst you've seen?
But we are committed to getting you every piece of information we can as soon as we can.
Tell us about this first big win you have. What is it, 24 million N95 masks?
Fewer unknowns.
Who's winning here? Where is the pressure right now?
That's our goal.
What worries you the most? The time it's going to take for a vaccine?
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This July 4th.
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like when your week off is forecast warm and sunny. Or when there's an extra unclaimed sausage left on the barbecue. Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage. Yeah, that feeling. Nice, isn't it? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Listening has always taught us a lot at Honda. And lately, we've been listening to your thumbs. Because thumbs can do everything now. The world is at their thumb tips. So now, the My Honda Plus app lets the thumb take control of your car too. Even when you're not inside the new Honda E, your thumb can find where you parked, set the temperature before you get in, check how much the battery is charged, and schedule charging for when electricity is cheapest. The new Honda E and My Honda Plus app. Oh, a thumbs up. Honda, the power of dreams.
Ever wondered how people's postcode lottery works? Easy. Your postcode is your ticket. And every weekday it gives you the chance to win £1,000 or £30,000 every weekend. And every month players in your postcode could win a share of £3 million. Join in at postcodelottery.co.uk/radio before midnight on the 23rd of July to play in the August draws. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 16 plus. Conditions apply. Play responsibly.
Should your kids go back to school? Ask Andrea.
She's a teacher.
We're doing everything we can to keep the children safe and happy at school, which is why it's great that more of those who can are coming back, not only for their education, but for their overall well-being too. It gives them a routine, helps develop their social skills, and they get to see their friends too.
If your child is eligible, they should return to school. The government is working towards getting all pupils back in September. Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
When you're buying tech online and you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, would you rather talk to a machine or to someone called Mac or Derek or Sanjay or Sue or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience?
Hi, it's Ali. What are you searching for?
Isn't it nice to get expert advice from another human being before you buy? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
Looking for your daily fix of NFL news and analysis?
In that. So we had to blow it up in the Super Bowl predictions instead. Because
Look no further than the Pick Six podcast, where CBS sports writer Will Brinson gets you up to speed with what's trending in the NFL that day, so that you're always in the know.
Yeah, it's pretty revealing of Brinson's methodology for predictions. When he gets mad at people for predicting good teams are going to win the Super Bowl or good players are going to win major awards. That's how you wind up.
Search Pick Six on TuneIn to listen.
How do you keep track of all your favorite stations and podcasts? Easy. You add them to your favorites list. Just find the audio you want to bookmark and tap the heart icon. Then, whenever you want to browse your favorites, you'll find everything under the Favorites tab.
This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, Hilton Knowles on the unrest that followed a police killing in his Brooklyn neighborhood more than 50 years ago.
Standing by my mother's living room window, I tried tentatively to ask her why our world was burning. She gave me a forbidding look. Boy, be quiet so you can survive, her eyes seemed to say.
Hilton Knowles on the New Yorker Radio Hour from WNYC Studios. Listen to this episode on TuneIn today.
At Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The move lower for the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ both advanced. First trading day of the second half, NASDAQ at a record. Here are the numbers. S&P up for a third day, up 15, a gain there of 0.5%. The Dow down 77, a drop there of 0.3%. 1% gain today for NASDAQ, up by 95 points. Stocks rose as an early trial of an experimental shot from Pfizer and BioNTech showed it is safe and prompted patients to produce antibodies. The 10-year, the yield 0.67%, gold down 0.6%, 17.70 the ounce on the precious metal. West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.1%, 39.69 a barrel. Brent, the global benchmark, 41.91 up today by 1.5%. Recapping, S&P up 15, a gain there of 0.5%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Master along with Jason Kelly. Well, Jason, we talked about this story. It caught our attention earlier in the week. It was reported by Elena Popina of Bloomberg News. It's about how New York City, as we know, we keep talking about this, coming back. But the tourists, they are not coming back. They are gone. And that's turned hotel owners into experts on survival. And that includes one hotel in the heart of Little Italy. Joining us right now to talk about that is Morgan Humphreys, General Manager at Noble Den, joining us on the phone in New York City. Morgan, so nice to have you here with us. First of all, tell us a little bit about your establishment and what it's been like the last 16 weeks.
Actually, we are a small boutique hotel. We've only got 54 rooms. We closed on March 19 and reopened on June 1st. And when we opened, we kept changing our opening date a little bit. We had to keep moving it back because of, the regulations and everything. We were trying to keep an eye also on the bookings. And then we finally made a decision to open when it got around 20%. So we opened, and since then we've been at like 25%. We did have a 40% night, but it averages down where we've got, we're in the 20% range.
So what's it like? I mean, take us inside the hotel. What's the experience as people come in?
Well, things are a lot different from what a lot of people are used to. When you come in, we take your temperature, and we don't start the check-in process until we've taken your temperature. Then once your temperature is taken, then we take, usually we don't take, an extra phone number and email address and all the tracing information, but that's required now. So if we take that stuff, some people don't want to give it, but we say it's required for tracing. Then they check in. We inform them also that there are no visitors, which people aren't too thrilled about. But with this, that's a new hotel policy. And after we get them checked in, then they go over to the shoe station. It's a place where they go over and spray disinfectant on the bottom of their shoes before they get in the elevator.
Oh, my God. The tracing thing, tell me about that. Is that part of the new regulations in order to open, or is that just what you guys are doing?
Well, the thing is, we didn't get anything really from the government to help us. And the big organizations. What we got was a notice from actually the health department. They sent out this thing. It was called New York Forward Safety Plan Template. And they say that you need to set it up and have it, fill it in and have it on premise in case an official comes in and asks for it. And it does mention, having the tracing information for everyone. Also, when the employees walk in the door, we take their temperature. And every time they come in the door, they take their temperature and sign in. And then also, we have to take another sheet where we ask them 3 questions. In the last 14 days, have you been exposed to COVID? Have you had symptoms of COVID? And what's the other one? It's so you had COVID, exposed to COVID,
traveling,
or been in contact with someone that's had COVID. Okay. Yeah. And then if they get all those questions right, then instead of going down the back staircase like they used to, they go to the shoe station and go down the elevator.
Wow. So let me ask you, as you've gone through this, Morgan, and you've had to go, even just describing this to me, it's stressing me out. So it must stress you out to a pretty high level. And your team, do you feel like it's too much at some point? Do you feel like, this isn't worth it, the juice isn't worth the squeeze? Or is this just an economic reality that you've got to do this to get some money coming in?
I think it's a reality of what we need to do. New York worked so hard to get where we are now. And it just takes people not paying attention to what's going on to make things start back up. And our guests are being understanding. We've had one person that was aggravated that they had to give their email address and phone number. But, for tracing, that's what the government wants. That's what we want to do. It's important to start somewhere, and it was hard. It's hard on the employees, too. They were really stressing out about coming back. They were wanting to make sure they had enough of the PPE. But we put up barriers in front of the check-in desk. We offer them the full face shields if they want to wear it, or goggles. Of course, they're all wearing masks, but the goggles and the face shield is just, that's up to their discretion what they prefer. But we do, because they are behind, the plexiglass anyway.
Right.
The housekeepers also have gowns if they want.
Yeah. What's it like in the rooms? Like, what do you have to do? And we've just got about a minute or so left. What do you have to do in the rooms?
In the rooms, I'll just try to put it all in a nutshell. Instead of opening the toilet paper and folding it all fancy, we leave it still wrapped. Tissue boxes, we don't open the tissue boxes. We've taken out all the information books. Let's see. We have a little souvenir monkey that everyone gets, and those, of course, now are in plastic bags.
Right.
So those things have changed.
Yeah.
Well, we're eager to stay in touch with you, Morgan, because, as things change and we continue to adapt and evolve, would love to hear how it goes. Subject of a great story by Elena Popina. Hat tip to her for putting us in touch with Morgan. Morgan Humphreys is the general manager of Noble Den. It is a hotel here in New York City, in Little Italy. Open, he said, about 25% capacity most of the time, and that's rigorous what they're going through, and interesting to see that people are going along with it. And listen, we're going to have a new reality for some amount of time.
Right, like it's just different set of steps, right, in order to make sure that people come to visit stay safe as well as the workers stay safe. It's all connected. All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Master along with Jason Kelly. Coming up, we hear from John Bolton, formerly of the Trump administration. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Wall Street began the month with a mixed to higher session. Boeing weighed on the Dow as it ended lower. The other major averages advanced. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 78. The S&P 500 gained 16. The Nasdaq Composite climbed 96 to an all-time high. The latest batch of economic data was mixed. ADP's monthly report on private sector employment came in weaker than expected, while a monthly report on manufacturing topped estimates. The government's June jobs report is due tomorrow. As coronavirus cases surge in California, the state has ordered the shutdown of indoor businesses, including restaurants, bars, museums, and movie theaters. The order covers 19 counties, about 70% of the state's population. On the other side of the country, New York City has delayed indefinitely the reopening of restaurants to indoor dining as it watches the resurgence of COVID-19 elsewhere. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
The doors are opening. When is that moment out in the distant future? Some things will be as they were, others forever changed.
The restaurant industry will never be the same.
Follow every new development here on Bloomberg Radio.
What do we need in terms of maybe the new school of economic thought?
Because the next best thing to magic is insight.
It may take nearly a decade for the U.S. economy to recover.
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. In-depth analysis.
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like discovering that the box of chocolates has a whole other layer underneath? Or scoring extra poppadoms with your takeaway? Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage? Yeah, that moment feels good, right? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished. With over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
What would the world be like if we listened more? At Honda, our ears are always open to new ideas. Oh, there's one now, knocking on our eardrum. What's that? What if we made a car with cameras instead of wing mirrors? A robot mower that knows when it's time to cut the grass? A self-balancing motorcycle? And what if by 2022, all of our mainstream cars were hybrid or electric? Great idea. Thanks, ears. Honda, the power of dreams.
To help keep you and your loved ones safe, tune in as the latest guidelines from the CDC. Home alone or with housemates, stay home as much as possible. Try to allow only people you live with into your home. Wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home and isolate from housemates. For the latest stories and updates on COVID-19, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn. We're all guilty of spending too much time on social media. Why not add something genuinely useful to your feed with TuneIn? Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn about some of the best stuff happening around the app. You might just discover your next audio obsession.
Did you know that with TuneIn's local radio feature, you can stream live FM and AM stations broadcasting in your area? Discover local news, talk, and music stations. Navigate to the local radio section under Browse to listen locally on TuneIn.
This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, Hilton Knowles on the unrest that followed a police killing in his Brooklyn neighborhood more than 50 years ago.
Standing by my mother's living room window, I tried tentatively to ask her why our world was burning. She gave me a forbidding look. Boy, be quiet so you can survive, her eyes seemed to say.
Hilton Knowles on the New Yorker Radio Hour from WNYC Studios. Listen to this episode on TuneIn today.
Want to get all your college sports news in one place? Turn on the Yahoo Sports College podcast to hear experts Dan Wetzel, Pat Forty, and Pete Thamel break down the latest NCAA stories from the football field to the basketball court and beyond.
I think Reggie should do a video of him running to Heritage Hall and front flipping in. Remember that famous front flipping the end zone that he did? Wasn't he the one who made that popular?
I think he was. I think he was, yeah.
Search Yahoo College Sports Podcast on TuneIn to listen.
Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Gotta
Speaking
say,
of Hamilton.
Yeah, speaking of Hamilton, being in the room where it happened, John Bolton, formerly President Trump's U.S. National Security Advisor, John Bolton, he caught up with the surveillance team this morning. He was in the room where many things happened, and he wrote about it.
He did. We're going to hear part of that interview with Lisa Abramowitz coming up. But first, Charlie Pellet's got an update on what's going on after the close of trading. Hey, Charlie.
Well, hello there. Moments ago, we heard from Raymond James says deal activity will stay subdued until the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic are broadly known. 2020 on pace to be the slowest year for M&A activity since 2009 based on first half activity. Today, of course, the first trading day of the second half. S&P up for a third day. NASDAQ jumping to a record as an early trial of an experimental shot from Pfizer, and BioNTech showed it is safe and prompted patients to produce antibodies. Earlier today, though, equities did come off session highs after California and Arizona reported their biggest daily virus case increases. Also, Houston's intensive care units exceeded full capacity. ICUs in Houston now at 102%. S&P 500 index up 15, up 0.5%. The Dow did fall 77 points, a drop there of 0.3%. A lot of the selling coming in the final few minutes. NASDAQ, as I mentioned, a record up 95, up by 1%. 10-year down 4/32, 0.66%. Gold pulling back by 0.6%, 17.71 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.1%, 39.72 a barrel. Well, as for the overall mood of the market, Chris Harvey is head of equity strategy at Wells Fargo Securities.
We see speculation, but it's not at a frothy pace. And if you're going to give people 0% interest rates, sooner or later, they're going to take that and they're going to lever up. And what we worry about is when that first person really levers up, the person to the right and to the left start to say, hey, we're not making as much money as that person. We need to do that as well. And then that's when we start to worry about that speculative frenzy. But we're not there yet.
And again, recapping S&P up 15, up 0.5%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly, Carol Masser. Well, The Room Where It Happened, that is the new book. You have probably heard about it, by former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton. Well, he caught up with our surveillance team this morning, and let's listen to that part of the conversation, or part of that conversation, I should say, where Lisa Abramowitz asked John Bolton about the Republican Party's continued support of President Trump.
Ambassador, you've been very critical of President Trump. You've been critical of the Democrats and how they've conducted the impeachment proceedings. What about Republican leadership? Have they done a good job offering up a check on the president?
Well, I think it's very difficult. The way these past 3.5, 4 years have evolved, for them to be as independent as I think many of them want. A lot of people who are never Trumpers say that the Republican House and Senate leadership is complicit. I don't agree with that. The fact is, nobody wants to be the subject of a Donald Trump 2 minutes hate, to use George Orwell's idea on Twitter. I think we're going to have within the Republican Party a very significant conversation after November 3rd, especially if Trump loses, which is at least a 50-50 possibility at this point, about the future of the party. That's one of the subsidiary purposes of the book in my mind. I want to make it clear that Donald Trump does not represent conservative philosophy. He does not represent the Republican Party. He is an anomaly. And I'm not going to vote for him. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not going to vote for the Republican presidential nominee because I don't think he's really true to our philosophy. I think he's true to Donald Trump and Donald Trump alone. I think a lot of people...
Ambassador, I want to break in here because the polls actually contradict that. The polls actually show that the Republican Party, by and large, has overwhelming support for President Trump, and that's the reason why Republican leadership has, more often than not, hewed to President Trump's ideas and goals. What makes you think that the Republican Party is different than what President Trump has put out there and the polls are saying?
Because public opinion polls take a limited picture based on a limited question by the pollster. Do you support Donald Trump over the Democrats? What I'm talking about is the larger issue of what the party actually believes in. And in my conversations, really across the country for an extended period of time, I don't doubt that in this debate, I think the Trump view will be rejected. I think it's an unfortunate part of our political dialogue today that it's all torqued around Donald Trump. Do you support Trump or do you oppose Trump? And there's really nothing else to discuss. That's bad for the country as a whole, and it's one of the things we need to correct. We'll have to correct it sooner or later. We may be able to correct it shortly after the November election. It may take another 4 years after that, but we are going to have to correct it.
Thinking, right, about a political party.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting back and forth there between former ambassador and former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton and our colleague Lisa Abramowitz. He appeared on Bloomberg Surveillance this morning.
I mean, it's certainly one of the conversations that, we have had in our home in terms of where the Republican Party really feels about their candidate. And it certainly has seemed, as things have gone on, that the Republican Party has stayed behind the president.
Yeah.
When you know kind of deep down that they must have some problems with some of the things that he has done, right? I don't know that any party is completely behind their candidate at all times, but politics are funny things, and support.
Yeah. Well, and there's been a lot written and said about the fact that while this is extreme and this feels new, it's actually not new. The partisanship, really, I think most people mark it around the Clinton administration when we really went down this road of hyper-partisanship. It certainly accelerated. It certainly accelerated during the Obama administration when you had a lot of the back and forth. You think back to the decision that Majority Leader McConnell made about not giving a confirmation hearing to Merrick Garland for the Supreme Court, and then turning around more recently and saying he absolutely would do differently if it were if the shoe was on the other foot, or if the nominee was coming from a president of his own party. So those sorts of things, and it's not just Republicans. Harry Reid, I think, bears some responsibility for this. So
I think it's on both sides, and I think it's troublesome when you're not really thinking about a particular situation and the details that are pertinent to it. That you're just saying, I'm going to vote this way because you're either with my party or you're not, and that's not very functional. And that's why we've seen some of the problems that have been created in this society. I do want to just remind everybody, check out that entire interview with John Bolton. You can find it at Bloomberg.com. Of course, it's the talk of the town. I was going to say the talk of the town in Washington, but it's really the talk of the country. The book out by John Bolton, The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir.
Yeah, exactly. So an interesting conversation. And John Bolton, he's going to keep on talking. I think we know that to be true. And he saw a lot. He knows a lot. Mm-hmm. Let's get back to world and national headlines. We get the world of the nation. And Ed Baxter. Hey, Ed.
All right. Hey, Jason. California Governor Gavin Newsom's pulling back from opening dine-in restaurants in counties making up over 70% of the state's population. They include Los Angeles.
This doesn't mean restaurants shut down. It means that we're trying to take the activities, many activities as we can, these mixed activities, these concentrated activities, and move them outdoors.
Yeah, also movie theaters, family entertainment centers, among others. He's also establishing what he calls an enforcement strike team to watch businesses from safe business practice perspective. And New York is hitting the pause button.
Phase 3 dining, we are going to postpone. And it's going to be postponed until the facts change and it is prudent to open.
Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, both governors are stressing the importance of separation and mask wearing, and he believes the president has encouraged bad behavior.
He denied it all. Denied his science advisors, denied the CDC, denied Dr. Fauci, denied them all.
But the president did say on Fox today that he wore a mask once.
Black mask, and I thought it looked okay. It looked like the Lone Ranger.
I think I've discovered the problem. I don't think he was wearing it correctly. You couldn't see through it. Never mind. Looking for silver bullets, too. 9 people have already been arrested under China's new security legislation for Hong Kong. And presidential hopeful Joe Biden has vowed to impose economic sanctions against China if it threatens U.S. citizens' First Amendment rights. He calls it a death blow to Hong Kong's freedom and autonomy. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon N.A. Member FDIC.
Jenny Liss, Jewish communal leader and philanthropist, talks about why she chose the Jewish Communal Fund for her family's charitable giving.
For a lot of people, it would be the convenience factor. I don't have to track anything.
If charitable giving is an important part of your life, JCF can help you organize your philanthropy with our donor-advised fund. A fund can be established with a minimum tax-deductible contribution of $5,000. Make grants to your favorite charities, and JCF handles all the administration and reporting.
At the year end, our board awards community grants from fees and endowment income to UJ's annual campaign. We also make gifts to specific organizations, the elderly, Holocaust survivors, the hungry. The fact that we come together as a community at the end of the year to build community, that's what makes us different.
Get better at giving back. To find out more about JCF's impact, visit jcfny.org and download the Giving Report. JCF, we have a gift for giving.
How long will it take?
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like discovering that the box of chocolates has a whole other layer underneath? Or scoring extra poppadoms with your takeaway? Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage? Yeah, that moment feels good, right? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Listening has always taught us a lot at Honda. And lately, we've been listening to your thumbs. Because thumbs can do everything now. The world is at their thumb tips. So now, the My Honda Plus app lets the thumb take control of your car too. Even when you're not inside the new Honda E, your thumb can find where you parked, set the temperature before you get in, check how much the battery is charged, and schedule charging for when electricity is cheapest. The new Honda E and My Honda Plus app. Oh, a thumbs up. Honda, the power of dreams.
How do we control coronavirus now? This is Scott. He's a nurse.
NHS Test and Trace helps stop the spread of the virus in our communities. If you've got symptoms, even mild ones, get a test immediately. Don't leave home for any other reason. If you test positive, we can trace the people you've been in contact with and contain the virus. So get tested and protect each other.
To get a test, go to nhs.uk/coronavirus or call 119. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Staying current on college hoops starts here. On the Eye on College Basketball podcast, CBS sports columnists Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander bring you commentary, insider information, and statistical analysis covering the entire NCAA.
The amount of earning potential you could have had there, or if you had gone to play at any other place with a chance to play in the NCAA tournament, win a national championship, none of us would have faulted Cunningham for doing that, but he decided this is where he wants to be in the face of a postseason.
Search Eye on College Basketball on TuneIn to listen.
This is Mike Golick Jr. from ESPN's Golick and Wingo. Every morning, Wingo, Dad, and I sit down and discuss all the news, drama, and highlights spinning the sports world that day. And with TuneIn, you can hear us whenever and wherever you go. Just search Golick and Wingo to start listening today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
We're all guilty of spending too much time on social media. Why not add something genuinely useful to your feed with TuneIn? Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn about some of the best stuff happening around the app. You might just discover your next audio obsession.
Who says you can't have a laugh while getting serious about America's pastime? On the daily podcast Locked On MLB, comedian and baseball fanatic Paul Francis Sullivan talks about each team, each pennant race, and everything else in the game, from rule changes and controversies to baseball cards and stadium food.
For those of you who are not familiar with me or the old show, I love to obsess over baseball. I'm talking baseball over the Super Bowl. We had a TV showing the division series during my wedding.
Search Locked On MLB on TuneIn to listen today.
News 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Want to begin with a developing story. National Football League will reduce its 2020 preseason to 2 games from 4. This according to NBC Sports, which did not say where it got the information. The league is expected to announce that move tomorrow. Hawaiian Air is going to resume service to 6 cities on August 1st. It says, however, travelers must show negative virus test results. The Dow lower, S&P higher, NASDAQ at a record, S&P picking up 15, up for a third day, up by 0.5%. NASDAQ up 95, up by 1%. The Dow slumped 77 points, down by 0.3%. 10-year down 6/30 seconds with a yield of 0.67%. Gold down 10.30, the ounce down by 0.6%. Right now 17.70, and crude up 1.1%, 39.72 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Well, let's get to our next conversation because it's about conversations that are happening inside the biggest companies, in our company, in places all around the country, and they're important. Brian Reeves is with us. He is Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Dell Technologies, joining us on the phone from Los Angeles. And, Brian, it's really nice to have you here with Carol and myself.
Thank you, Jason and Carol. Great to be here.
So one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you is you wrote a blog post for Dell that went out, and it's called The Conversations Changing Our Company. And I have to ask you, what are those conversations like when it gets down to what you as a company and other companies should actually be doing to ensure, as we keep talking about, that this isn't a moment where we say, man, this is really a shame and we really should do something about this and actually get something done?
Yes, so great question. So for us, it really was, quite honestly, about listening to our Black team members and gathering insights, across the company. So I'm leading, I'm sure you guys read Michael Dell's blog post as well, and he asked me in the aftermath of that post to lead a cross-organization conversation across HR, government affairs, strategic giving, and our employee resource groups. But the conversations we're having are really on, 4 points. Number one, how are we going to be delivering even better on our inclusivity within our company? Number two, how do we ensure that our employees, their progression is the focus with sponsorship and reskilling of our employees? Number three was around, certainly bringing in and continuing to bring in more underrepresented minority talent. We had already last year spoke to some 2030 goals, but to make sure we have a focus and really looking at all the populations we can, whether it's community colleges, whether it's apprenticeships as well. And then last, and as important as anything, is for advocating for systemic change and bridging access to technology, education, and jobs. And we call it the digital divide. And quite honestly, the digital divide is one of the deep roots of not only systemic racism, but socioeconomic disparity, which we're talking about within the company today.
What it sounds like, Brian, too, and it's interesting, earlier today I actually hosted a virtual conversation about diversity and inclusion in America as part of our Bloomberg Live Breakaway program. And, CEOs, leaders are all talking about racism in America, figuring out how to be better amid all of this. One of the things that seems to come out is enough talk, everybody, take actions. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. And you're thinking about very deliberate steps to improve diversity and inclusion.
That's right, Carl. And as Jason said before, this is not a moment in time for us. I mean, we have actually been, this has been in the DNA of Dell for a long time. I joined the company 2.5 years ago with, the explicit remit to accelerate in this area. So for us, it's how do we lean into the things with this particular focus? How do we lean into the things that we can do as a company? And again, that socioeconomic disparity, I believe, which I call the have and have-nots, and it's just not a U.S. situation. This is a global situation.
Right.
So the type of things that we are doing is what Dell does best, is to lead and then lean in on things where we have great influence and we believe we'll have great success.
Can I ask you, though, because one of the things that came up in our discussion today was racism starting when you're a baby. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of conversations about where does the problem start? And, our conversation got to, it starts when you're born, and there's bias in our society that you've got to get rid of. So how do you work on those issues?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure lots of smart people can articulate when it starts, but I can tell you this specific problem, and we think about, the murder of George Floyd, it goes back to at least 400 years. This is a 400-year problem in the making that has come to a head. With regards to bias, absolutely. Unconscious and conscious bias pretty much drive all of us. Quite honestly, we all are biased in some way. In recognizing that many years ago, we actually went on a journey in working with Catalyst, one of our partners, to develop some foundational learning. I don't even call it a training. I call it foundational learning around unconscious bias and other topics like intersectionality, microaggressions, where we've taken all of our executives, all of our people leaders through, and we're now going and taking all of our team members around the world so they can understand what is the root of these biases and how to combat them, because without knowing that you have it, you can't combat it. And racism, yes, what you know and how you look at people is something that is with you and based on your experiences.
And Brian, when it comes to digital divide, as you say, this is right in the sweet spot of Dell, and in some ways, I think goes back to Michael Dell's dorm room in many ways, right? That was in part what he was setting out to do in terms of, cost-efficient, cost-effective access to technology. So what does that look like in 2020 where you can really push technology to a level? What are the mechanisms to really bridge that divide?
Yeah, that whole democratization of technology and who has access, and again, it comes down to the haves and have-nots. And quite honestly, COVID-19 has shown a horrific light on the disparity access, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare. So for us, I mean, we're currently looking at some large-scale programs where we want to focus in the areas of healthcare, education, and economic opportunity. And we think it's not just us. We can bring, our customers and partners to bear so that, it's just not the essential infrastructure that you have, but you have to have connectivity. That's a key point to it, as well. And you have to, sort of connect the haves, the have-nots, I should say, with opportunities in these particular areas. So we've kicked off, some conversations as to what that looks like. Also, the financing and options that need to come, because obviously the have-nots don't have the wherewithal to be able to purchase into this fourth industrial revolution. So we want to normalize that playing field, as you said, Michael did from the beginning.
And so is it giving away, is it lower cost laptops? Is it lower cost technology? Is it, I'm guessing it's all of the above, working on the infrastructure at a local level. It feels like this is almost like house to house issue. We've only got about a minute left, unfortunately.
Yes, there's house-to-house issue. So this is access to technology, access to broadband connectivity, and at a cost or no cost to the individuals to consume it. So that's what we can do in partnership and bringing these partners to bear to make this happen for the world to rise.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it there, but I would love to keep in touch with you because this is really important, obviously, to us, and we know to your company as well. And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk more about your background because, working at Xerox PARC and other places, understanding the Silicon Valley aspect to this as well is really important. So look forward to continuing this conversation at some point with Brian Reeves, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Dell Technologies.
Well, I'm thinking of the Silicon Valley story that we had earlier this week or last week, where we talked about, despite the population in America, I think it's like, I want to say 13% of Americans are black, it's like a fraction of 1% that actually get VC money. All right. For those of you listening in New York and San Francisco, watching on YouTube, Bloomberg Business Week, we're continuing. If you're listening on Bloomberg 99.1 in D.C., Sound On with Kevin Cirilli is coming up next. And coming up next, Jason, we've got some really interesting interviews, including the former CEO of Honeywell. He's going to join us, David Cody, in just a moment.
Business is like a puzzle.
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like when your week off is forecast warm and sunny. Or when there's an extra unclaimed sausage left on the barbecue. Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage. Yeah, that feeling. Nice, isn't it? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
My name is Danya. I moved to Manchester in 2010. I came from Afghanistan. The first school day was a bit tough. I had no friends, couldn't speak English, and felt a bit left out. My high school teacher was very supportive. She matched me up with friends that spoke the same language as me. Having friends gave me a lot of confidence. I felt like I'm not being left out.
Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Get free one-to-one support with our teacher training advice.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, time's up for today. Everybody who followed our trades and copied them did really well for today. Well done to you all. To the rest, if you're still skeptical about our trading strategy, you need to go back in time and check our history files. You can find them in our playlist SG Trader channel. I hope you like our stream. If you leave a like and subscribe, it will help the channel to grow. As always, I will speak to you all tomorrow morning from 8 o'clock UK time. Bye for now.